recording. Here we go. So welcome to the Rise of the Midnight Pals book club. We had a month to read 19 issues, first with the Rise of the Midnight Suns trade, the newer printing, which included a whole host of books, but it included the Rise of the Midnight Suns event, along with the Spirits of Venom book, and a little bit of the Midnight Suns Unlimited issue. For whatever reason, they didn't include the full issue with that. Really weird. I think they should have, but they didn't. And then we also read the 2022 Midnight Suns series, which was 5 issues. And as we've talked about in the Community Book Club chat, we have a lot of stuff to say about that book, but let's start off with our more general thoughts on what we read. Do you have any previous experience with the Midnight Suns? So starting with me, I did have some experience prior to this with the Midnight Suns. I've read Donny Cates' Doctor Strange, which has his own Midnight Suns group as they take on Mephisto in Las Vegas. I really enjoyed that story arc, and I really enjoyed that team. And so that's what made me interested in checking out other Midnight Suns stories, which is why I recommended the Midnight Suns 2022, which was probably a mistake on my part. But I enjoyed that group. I've also played the Midnight Suns video game. I enjoy it a lot. I need to go back to it and actually play the DLCs. I haven't played them at all. So that's my basic experience with the Midnight Suns, but I hadn't read the original series up until now. So I actually enjoyed the 1990s Midnight Suns series. It was very 90s with its leather jackets, flaming skulls, and hellfire shotguns, but it was that enjoyable type of 90s. Like yesterday, Chris on the Pal Show kept mentioning dad slop. This was like comic slop for me, and I was just like eating it up. Like, oh, John's gonna like shoot off this demon's head with a shotgun. Heck yeah, give it to me straight into my eyeballs. So I was enjoying that. Then I got to the Midnight Suns 2022 series, and it went downhill from there, which, again, I'll get into more so specifically, but I did not like parts of the story. I like the stuff with Agatha and the Coven. I think that could have been set up for an interesting story, but the stuff in the present is what I have the main issue with. But overall, I had a fun time reading the Midnight Sun stuff, especially the older book. But those are my general thoughts. Cosm, what are your general thoughts on what we read, and do you have any previous experience with the Midnight Suns?
My experience is about 0 with all the characters involved. Essentially, I know them from the movies essentially, and those adjacent to that. I have not read anything from them in that regard. So yeah, I'm kind of new with all of them. I liked the 90s even more, obviously. Yeah, nothing groundbreaking, but still fun. Ending was a little bit wonky, but for the rest it was fine. The middle part, the Spirits of Venom, I personally didn't like it. In the sense of, I not like it, it wasn't interesting. I just kind of went through it, was like, oh, yeah, nice. I just didn't vibe with it for a second. The last story, the Spirits of Vengeance Unlimited series, Eyes of the Beholder, was very nice. But it suffered from shitty art, essentially. But it came down to. But the story itself was nice. That's from the book that you gave me, 400-ish pages. I liked Catch more than I liked Blaze. One of the cliff notes that I wrote down, and that is more specific to the books itself. Then we go to the Midnight Suns. I had 2023 down because I read the TPB. 80% of it was doable, and then I'm not sure somebody suffered something somewhere. I'm not sure if it's an aneurysm or a brain calculation or a misread or something. It was just. It fell off a cliff into the depths of nowhereness, and it kind of goes back throughout the whole book. It's like, yeah, but why have I invested 100 pages of this now for this? And it was like it didn't make sense. It didn't go anywhere essentially. Well, it did go somewhere, but nobody gets it. Or at least I didn't get it, and I'm It was just annoying. And then all of the other quote unquote flaws will start to, compound even more so. Because you can wave away a particular plot point or particular issue, like, yeah, it's okay enough. But it was such a letdown at the end. It was like, damn. It's like really somebody had an idea and at the end fumbled it so hard that they threw the ball in a different court.
Hmm.
And proceeded to not even make a strike there. It was like, oh god, it was just no. But beyond that, I mean, the art and so was good-ish. I mean, it was nothing that it was up until that point necessarily. When there were enough points to complain about, but again, nothing to the detrimental of the main story itself, in my opinion. But
Hmm.
yeah, boy.
Yeah, we'll get into like the Spirits of Venom arc here in a bit, but that was more so just like Howard Mackey like combining his different books into one because he was both the writer of he was writing Venom, he was writing Web of Spider-Man, and he was writing Spirits of Vengeance all at the same time, and so he probably wanted to do an event with that book. And again, we'll get to it later, but because of that book, Venom and Spider-Man are like considered honorary Midnight Suns. They were also included in the video game because of that story arc. But they aren't like main members. Again, we'll get to it later, but yeah. Carter, what did you think about what we read, and did you have any previous experience with the Midnight Suns?
So I have pretty much no experience with any of these characters. The closest is like I think I read one tie-in issue of Ghost Rider for like World War Hulk, which was kind of cool. And then pretty sure that's about it. So like all these characters I was excited to like get into. Um and I was I was reading that like looking at that guide that you had sent earlier. I had found the same one before and I was like, "Oh, maybe I'll read more of this stuff before or after." And at this point, I'm like, oh my god, never again can I read these characters. Which obviously that's an exaggeration. I think Ghost Rider is pretty cool and Blade 2 and stuff. But I think both series, ironically, or both groupings, the old stuff and the new stuff, kind of had the same track for me. Where like it started out, the premise was cool, and that just immediately declined. Um, well, I guess not immediately. It immediately declined for me on the new stuff, like issue 2 or 3, right? The
Mm-hmm.
old stuff was good for like the first 5 issues, and
Mm-hmm.
then issue 6, I was like, okay, now is when I'm having a bad time. Then the Venom Spider-Man stuff, also a bad time, but in a slightly different way. I feel like it's kind of they did the exact same thing twice in the Venom story, except not to any good effect. Like normally, I've been watching a lot of like videos on like writing theory and plot theory and things like that, and they talk about like a lot of times you open with like a little mini preview of what your story's overall story is going to be. So like they fight the bad guy and it goes kind of wrong, but
Mm-hmm.
then the overall story is like them fighting the bad guy, but it goes right. Whereas like the Venom story is kind of just like we fight the bad guy and we win, and then we fight the bad guy again and we win again, and there's like literally no development or anything. It's just boring. So overall, I did not have a very good time with this. But
Mm. Yeah, I'm sure we'll get into it here in a bit. Jay, what are your general thoughts on what we read? And do you have any previous experience with the Midnight Suns?
Well, I'm gonna have to get caught up on the comic books because I'm like far behind on
Mm-hmm.
those and read them and everything. But yes, I've had previous experience like with Midnight Suns, and I love it so much. Like right now, because of currently with the non-comics media, like the video games and like
Mm-hmm.
the MCU, they're getting a big Midnight Suns movie all together, and we have like almost all the Midnight Suns and more rivals, and then they have that Midnight Suns video game that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember like a few years ago when I was a kid, there was like a 1980s a comic of like the Midnight Suns where it was Jack and Ted, and I think Frankenstein was in there and everything. I can look for the cover here in a bit, and I'm like, okay, this is cool. Um, and then like over the years, I just started really liking the characters that make up the Midnight Suns.
Mm-hmm.
Fellow. Am I?
Your mic's cutting out, Jay.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it like stopped picking
Um,
up
okay.
audio for a moment.
Oh boy. Okay. Yeah, I don't know why. I just really enjoy like
Mm-hmm.
the team members of like the Midnight Suns, and like I said, I need to catch up on the comic books, but
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy them. Like I really think they're cool.
Okie dokie.
They're one of my favorite teams. It's not my favorite team.
Superjob, I know you don't use your microphone, so feel free to type your answers to these questions in the chat and I'll read them off. Superjob did say, my experience with 90s Midnight Suns was looking at it at the time and thinking, or time and going, these are all the characters I'm not interested in. Pass. The only Ghost Rider I'm interested in at all is Ghost Rider 2099. So you're the opposite of Steve, because Steve likes traditional Ghost Rider, but he's not a fan of Ghost Rider 2099, at least the concept. He said he hasn't read the series, so that's interesting. The ending with the time travel in different dimensions was a complete mess. Yes, we will get into that whenever we talk about the 2022 series more in depth. So my next question is, we got to see two versions of the Midnight Suns / Suns teams. Which team did you like more, and who was your favorite team member, and who was your least favorite team member? So for me, obviously, I prefer the older Midnight Suns group. My favorite out of that group was probably Johnny Blaze, actually. I liked his struggle, even though it felt repetitive, because there's that struggle of he wants to leave the spirit of vengeance behind, and yet he keeps getting dragged into these scenarios over and over again. And I think that's just like, it gets repetitive as you continue reading, but that's just like a part of 90s comics, I guess, where they repeat some of the same points over and over again. And so I did like Johnny the most. I'm surprised you like Danny Ketch the most, Cosm, because like I felt like we didn't get a whole lot of Danny, at least Danny the character. We spent most of the time with Ghost Rider rather than Danny, I would say.
Yep.
Like the only time we see Danny is whenever he's like in that spirit realm and he's like floating through, and then of course there's the end battle where Lilith pulls Danny out and turns him into like a demon creature. But those are the only real times that we see Danny, so it's interesting that he's your favorite. As far as least favorites go, I'll talk about this later whenever we get to it, but my least favorite is Nico Minoru for the 2022 Midnight Suns series. I did not like her character and the fact that she repeated stuff over and over and over again. It got really annoying really quick. But those are my personal favorites. Cosm, which team was your personal favorite, and who was your favorite and least favorite team members?
But now looking back at it, when you say it like that, I probably like the Ghost Rider character in that sense more. And then he
Mhm.
catches backstory, which was hinted at throughout the sort of, I believe it was issue 3 or 4 that it happened, that you saw sort of a track record of his history.
Mhm.
And I found that simply more interesting than the tidbits that I got from Blaze in that sense.
Mhm.
What I also kind of found weird about Blaze is that Blaze started off as the Ghost Rider character and then makes a switch. So he goes from the one who's reasonable to the one who's unreasonable, and now the Ghost Rider has to take care of Blaze that he doesn't shoot and kill stuff on the go. So I was like, this is a bit weird. So they kind of flipped very early in I believe, issue 1 or 2.
Mhm.
Even kijken. Wat do we have more? So yeah, that. I would say I would kick out. Let me check. King and the heel vampire guy with a fucking gun.
Mhm.
I'm not I'm not sure what his name is, so that I wasn't compelled to go search it back.
Mhm.
So just call him a guy with gun. And King, I would kept those, and I would probably introduce Keyblade, because I think he belongs there. And would probably add Magic and anybody else who's compelling.
Mm.
I'd probably, if I have to really go find it in the Suns, yeah. No, I think I would stick with Magic, and that's it. Because that's the only one that's eligible from that one, to be honest. And also not to create doubles in that sense. So yeah. What I disliked about Blaze is that he kept the tipsy turvy. He kept going back to being the guy who almost shoots people in the head, and then the Ghost Rider has to put back, and it was initially the other way around. So yeah, that was kind of for me for it. I have not. I do have the catch omnibuses, so I'm kind of interested in, like, okay, I'm kind of happy that I made that choice in particular. Though I do not know how well or how, quote unquote, good or not good the Blaze versions were. And I believe what most people say, that the Blaze versions are more to their liking, what I can gather. But again, it's anecdotal, and it's just up to what people personally believe. It's the same with the different characters. What was the first iteration better or the second iteration better? The Wally or whatever the fucker's name was again.
Yeah, I feel like Ghost Riders have the same problem as like Robins, where the second Ghost Rider, in this case Danny Ketch, always gets the short end of the stick, like Jason Todd Robin. I actually like Danny Ketch. I wouldn't say he's my favorite. I think I prefer Robbie out of the Ghost Riders, but again, a lot of that has to do with the video game. Also like Magic because of the video game, although I thought she wasn't too great in the 2022 series.
Big girl with big sword and slashes things, and that's about it. And that's what she kind of does, and that's what she adds to the team, unfortunately. And that's a second Wolverine, essentially. And I think I would agree that the creepy of weird ass goth girl is probably the worst, which is sad to say that you wrote a goth girl that is even hateable to a certain degree. It's a mark of aesthetic writing, or at least writing to the best degree, that you fuck up that much. But
yeah, that's gonna put me on a bit of a tangent here, but one of the biggest travesties when it comes to the Midnight Suns game is that you can't fully romance people. Like, there's a relationship system in the game, and so you could become really good friends with the characters in it, but you can't like actually date them because Marvel didn't want that. 2K, the producers, I forget who the exact developer is, they wanted to add romance in the game, but Marvel was like, no. So unfortunately, I can only be really good friends with Magic. But that's
isn't it called mods to the solution to this problem? PC Master Race and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there is mods. There probably is mods. Now you're gonna put me on a bit of a side tangent there.
That's generally the answer to such problems.
I have some side quests to do after this, it looks like. Superjob says the new team had characters I actually liked. So I like Nico, generally not in this story specifically, and Magic, though she's getting overplayed since she's in Rivals. The Strange Academy characters are cool too. See, one of my complaints with the team whenever it comes to the new Midnight Suns, you had Dr. Voodoo in the first issue. Why isn't he a part of the team? I know he was a part of the Donny Cates Midnight Suns, so maybe you don't want to replay things. Like, this team is almost all new except for Blade. He's like the only retaining character, I would say, from like previous teams in terms of the comics. But I feel like Dr. Voodoo would have been good, especially as we got the Tony Stark, Dr. Stephen Strange mashup in one of the issues. I feel like Dr. Voodoo could have filled that role instead of Tony Sorcerer Supreme. That's a side tangent. Carter, which of the two teams is your personal favorite, and who was your favorite team member, and who was your least favorite?
So the originals were my preference. Um, my least favorite is what are they called? The the group with the Montesi and her friends because they
Yeah.
did literally nothing. They were just useless. So I don't know why they were there at all, other than they were like, you're destined to be important or something stupid. Um, favorite character was Johnny Blaze, because he actually had some like character character period, I guess, but he had like things at stake. You know, he wasn't just kind of this vigilante out for various reasons. Like he had a family, and he was trying to get back to some sense of normalcy. I also found it funny that they called him John Blaze and Dan Ketch, like as if the Danny and Johnny are too childish for their edgy '90s comic. Um, but yeah, that's my preference. I have I don't have a favorite Ghost Rider, but I guess by default that makes it John Blaze because my only other Ghost Rider experience is uh, what was one you said earlier? The
Robbie Reyes.
Hispanic one,
Yeah.
Robbie Reyes. Yeah, I watched the Agents of Shield show where he was a character and for a couple of seasons. So that's my only other Ghost Rider favorite. So
I'm probably going to mention the video game a whole lot during this, but I love Robbie in the video game because his whole like friendship thing is like you and him fixing up his car, and it's just two bros like talking about cars and muscle cars and everything. And I love muscle cars, especially the older the better. So like 1970s, 1980s muscle cars, that's like where I'm at. Um, so I love the character in that. I don't have much comic experience whenever it comes to Robbie. Uh, Hopefully I'll change that this year. Yeah, that's why I love Robbie.
yeah, I would say the one takeaway is that I'd like to read more Ghost Rider, even if these stories are disappointing.
Mhm.
And I guess on topic of bad characterization, the first thing on my list was that the Night Stalkers wanting to kill the Ghost Riders made no sense, and I did not like that. Like,
Mhm.
obviously, I don't know anything about Blade or those other characters, but them just suddenly being like, "Yeah, you're also magical, and therefore we must kill you," was completely pointless and just seemed shoehorned in there to give the characters some sort of like conflict, because
Mhm.
otherwise they're all just like, "Yeah, why wouldn't we team up to erase evil from the world?"
Absolutely. Um, I have a point to that later, but we'll get to it here in a bit. Superjob asks, who is the Ghost Rider in Sons? That is Kershala. She is the Spirit Rider. I have no idea who she is outside of this. It just felt like they wanted a different Ghost Rider. It, this team is interesting, or this book takes place during an interesting time at Marvel because it's established in that book that Doctor Strange isn't the Sorcerer Supreme, which that's happened a lot since I've been reading comics. Like, not to get into spoilers as to who's the Sorcerer Supreme in Donny Cates' run, but Steven is not the Sorcerer Supreme in that. He recently is not the Sorcerer Supreme in current Marvel comics. That's revealed to be Scarlet Witch. And then in this, it's Clea who is the Sorcerer Supreme. So like, what's going on with Doctor Strange at this time? I don't know who was writing Doctor Strange during this. Probably should have done some research before this, but oh well. Superjob says,
Not
"Is she
worth it.
cool? I'm hesitant to judge characters on how they are in the series since they're almost all terribly written." Uh, the writing isn't great for her, I would say. Like I didn't like some of the dialogue with her isn't great, although most of the dialogue in 2022 Midnight Suns isn't great. But her design's cool. Wasn't McKay doing Doctor Strange? That's
No, because he had the axe in the comic that was belonging to him. She even refers to that axe that he used for
oh.
it. from what I can remember at least.
Yeah, it was Jed
Nico
McKay.
uses that particular axe on, and also hands to blade a couple of times. I
Yes.
think.
So this, I think Jed McKay was after Mark Waid's Doctor Strange, because I know. So it goes from 2015. It goes Jason Aaron, Donny Cates, then it goes to Mark Waid. And so I guess it would be Jed McKay who's after him. Huh. Looks like I have some reading to do. Some more reading on top of everything else. But Jay, who was your favorite team out of these two selections? And do you have a favorite team member or least favorite team member?
Oh, this is gonna be difficult. I don't know about least favorite. Oh, say I think the three of my favorites are probably Man Thing and Moon Knight and Blade and like you said, Ghost Rider. Um, oh boy, this is very difficult. Least favorite. Probably Nico.
Hmm. Yeah, that's fair.
Although I'll have to do some more reading up on her, but probably Nico.
Who
Yeah.
would have guessed?
I think we're in the same camp because like I didn't like Nico in this book, but to be fair, I haven't read much of her in Runaways. So outside of this, I don't have much judgment on her as a character whenever it comes to the comics. I also haven't watched the Runaways show, so I'm not sure if she's good in that. But yeah, my next
I would
question.
say she's pretty solid.
Oh.
Oh, sorry, I was just gonna say in that show, I feel like she's pretty solid. Like the main kind of character drama conflict is like the love triangle involving her and
Mhm.
a couple other characters. So, but I would recommend that show definitely to anybody.
Yeah, I'll probably check it out someday. There's like a lot of Marvel shows that I missed around that area, that era of like Marvel TV. Like I didn't watch the Cloak and Dagger show because I forget which channel it was on, but it wasn't on like your ABC or something like that. So I didn't watch Cloak and Dagger.
Fifi?
Would also recommend that one. Those two shows crossed over a little bit too.
Oh, all right. I'll have to add it to my to watch later list. But moving on to my third question, we got to see the Midnight Suns go up against Lilith and her children, Deathwatch and his Death Spawn, and Valtor / Corrosion. Which threat was your personal favorite and why? For me, I would probably go with Lilith and her children, just because it felt more thought out of these three threats. Like Deathwatch, it just felt like sort of happened, like maybe Howard Mackey wanted to return to that idea, and so he did with this Midnight Suns Spirits of Venom book. So that's how we got them. We also got the Demo Goblin in the Deathwatch arc, which is another callback to some of Howard Mackey's Spider-Man stuff, where Hobgoblin was possessed by a demon who wanted to kill other demons. It's a whole can of worms that we don't have to get into today. So I felt like that was just very convoluted in terms of threats. The Valtor / Corrosion stuff, again, I liked the setup with Agatha and the Coven within like the past, but the present stuff with Valtor, I wasn't necessarily a fan of. It's also just like a random Doctor Strange pull, because it's like the vapors of Valtor is one of Doctor Strange like random spells that he always casts out. Like Doctor Strange has certain spells that a writer will just use and then it can like do whatever that writer wants, basically. You have the Crimson Bands of Sidorak, you have the Vapors of Altor, you have, I forget what the W is, but it goes like something of Wundagore, so on and so forth, a bunch of spells. So I felt like that was just like, let's play with one of Doctor Strange's spells and expand on that. So definitely like Lilith and her children are my favorite threat out of this. So yeah, that's where I stand. Cosm, which was your favorite threat out of the ones that we saw the Midnight Suns face in this?
Yeah, it's funny how you describe it. Expand the lore. It's like no, he created and he basically said magic was given to them by this character in person. It's like a little bit different than some guy who had a spell somewhere. But either way, I mean, to me, going to Suns first, or it's to me when you are repeating this as a layman's basically, and when I'm hearing this, it's like this guy. Not specifically. I'm not putting him down in that sense, but it seems to me that he didn't understand the even the characters at all. It's like somebody gave him the cliff notes, make me something. Because all the characters are basically one-dimensional. They all do the same thing over and over again. I mean, you can say Wolverine, magic. That's about Wolverine's contribution to this book. Then we have Nico, my staff, oh, my heaven for a staff. Magic is I slash things. Blade is I also slash things. Spirit, I seek vengeance and I feel stuff and the other dimensional stuffs. That's about it. Yeah, and then we have the zombie girl, which is probably aesthetically and simply conceptually like, oh, it's a nice character. I actually liked the design and everything. I liked it. I was like, yeah, we can do something with it. And many of the ancillary characters, indeed, Voodoo was probably also like one. Yeah, I would probably add that in my team if I remember that character previously. But the whole Voltaire and yeah, I have a very large comprehensional gap here. It's like, okay, for me, it just seemed to me that the guy had an idea and wasn't able to capitalize upon it, but without a forethought. I mean, if you start a book with a premonition and in 4 days shit's going to happen, the two things that you need to do is either put some form of timeline in your story that as soon as the time progresses in the story that you feel that some form of dread is coming. The time is nearing, the stuff is going to compound, and it's going to get there. But that wasn't addressed at all. We don't have any sense of flow and time within this book. It's just stuff happens and we don't know what the time is. So it could have been all in 12 hours for all we know or care necessarily. So it's like, okay, so that's a problem. And then you have a lot of an issue of well, yeah, where does it actually even go? When you have a foresight of a vision that you proceed to give, and you don't, at the end, you don't harken it back to that element without any, you basically flip the script as it were, because the people that you're seeing doing the actions without the foresight of the foresight, it's like, yeah, but those characters weren't those things in the foresight. So the foresight initially faulty or wrong or somewhere else, and at that point it just falls apart completely. So the whole premise is botched from that from the get-go, essentially. When it comes to the first book, I actually liked it a lot because it's more, I guess, more quote-unquote bog standard, and goes through all the children essentially and lays out their powers and stuff like that. The only thing that I found lacking is the culmination. I mean, issue 1 through 5 I liked it a lot, actually a really lot. And by 6 it was like, oh, okay, we're going into high gear now. And if you ask me, like, how did Lilith get destroyed, I can't necessarily tell you how. Did she get incinerated? Did she get punched? She was put up high and flames and the end, essentially. And then all of a sudden the sun's turned around and we need to kill that and this guy and that guy. I was like, okay. Personally, I can see why, but at that point, it's like, you are so far in together dealing with these particular demons and devils and whatever the fuck it is, or vampires. I know that these characters have a fundamental, anger or hatred towards a particular group, but it's like at this point, would you really? Uncomfortable alliance is not a practical thing here, which is something I found, a little bit sad in the end. I was like, okay, I would have expected a little bit more of this. How it would have wrapped up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I said, the Spider-Man stuff. Yeah, I read through it and I wasn't really impressed by it. I did it like Troll or whatever, or Hag and Troll, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yeah. I read through it, was like, it was unimpressed. I necessarily didn't really care, so I don't have any much more to say on that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when it comes to how they defeated Lilith, so she like opens the portal within her like abdomen, and Ghost Rider folds her body into the portal, so it's almost like an Ouroboros where it's like the snake is eating itself, but instead Lilith's portal is like taking her in at the same time, and that's how they defeated her, I guess. Although at the end it's revealed that she's not defeated and she reaches out to her child, so it's like, was she just teleported somewhere?
At that point I was thoroughly confused. Like, okay, what happened here now?
Yeah. And then whenever it gets to the like whole jumping around the place, I do have a question about that later, but it concerns like the 2022 book. When it comes to this, I do understand that it feels like at some points Howard Mackey is just like, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. But I also feel like that's just like a thing of 90s comics as well. Like Batman Nightfall, the Azrael era, is like is very much the same way, I would say, where it's like, and then Azrael went and fought two cowboys on a train, and then he went and fought an assassin named the Tally Man, and so on and so forth. So I feel like that's more of a like 90s comic thing rather than a specific thing, although Howard Mackey does have that very 90s sort of writing style where not everything is like thought out and sort of like it's that and then this happened sort of writing style, I would say. But yeah, Carter, what was your favorite threat out of the ones that we saw the Midnight Suns face?
Definitely Lilith and the Lilin. It was the one that actually felt like a tangible threat. It's like demons invade the world, and we got to find them and stop them. Like that's not a super uncommon trope, right? It's just the ending that fell flat for that. But even though I didn't read some prior issues to that, it felt like, oh, they've been leading up to this for a little while because Lilith was already an established character. So like it kind of seems like it was threaded throughout the storyline prior, and they were kind of paying that off with this big crossover, which felt like it worked until the ending, which is better than I can say for the other threats. So yeah.
Fair enough. Jay, what was your favorite threat out of the ones that we saw the Midnight Suns go up against?
I'm also gonna vote Lilith.
Yeah, I think there's a reason they chose Lilith for the video game in terms of like being the villain in that, because she's like the big villain whenever it comes to the Midnight Suns. After the 1992 story, the Midnight Suns became like a yearly thing after this, where they had like a yearly event. So after this, there was the Midnight Madness event. I forget who is the villain in that, but in the Siege of Darkness, we see Chthon be the villain of that story. And so, but Lilith, she has the biggest splash in terms of like Midnight Suns lore. One, because she's the first, but also she's the most well known because of that. Cosm says in the chat, also it's not a major super event, so it has a little bit more leeway in my view. So for me, it wasn't clear what happened throughout those interactions, which was a bit meh, but still acceptable. Let's see. I did see. Go ahead.
Also, I didn't like her design. From an artistic perspective, Lilith itself. It was like,
Yeah, I'm not really a fan of like the horn thing she has going on at the top.
No, with the veil and the hair, and it's weird.
Yeah. Superjob said earlier, oh man, I didn't realize part of the 90s story was written by D.G. Chichester, whose Daredevil was terrible. Oh. Yeah, I do have a question about that later. Yeah, it's the next one after this one. My next question is, these books try to focus more on the horror elements rather than superhero elements. Did you ever feel that sense of horror, or did it just feel like a superhero story wearing a spooky ghost sheet costume? For me, there wasn't ever a moment that I felt scared reading this. Like, horror books do not work for me whenever it comes to manga comics in general. Like, I never get scared reading a book. I am not a fan of Junji Ito, which would probably get me like crucified in like a manga Discord or something, but I don't find his books scary. It's more so like, here's this concept and I'm like, oh yeah, that is interesting, and then I just move on, rather than like, oh, that's terrifying. So I never get scared reading a book. So for me, this felt more like a kid wearing that spooky ghost costume, if you will. So yeah, I never felt scared reading this. Wasn't really like horror for me. It was more superhero than anything. But that's just my 2 cents. Kazum, did you think this book focused more so on the horror elements, or did it feel like it was just a superhero book wearing a horror costume, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, you and I have the same problem in that sense. I mean, we are so desensitized to a certain degree that nothing really faces us, and it's not in this direction particularly. I do like the horror aspect though, so that I can get engrossed into it, but I never quote unquote scared of it. In that sense, I might be, but I more have more the psychological stories, like for a Pun Pun, for example. That's one of those that keeps under your nails and keeps more inside your head. So like psychological horror is more my thing that I can get behind. Probably Tinian's book was probably one of more that's like, oh yeah, shit. You know, you start wondering, and the only moment that they had that within this entire book was at the last the Eyes of the Beholder story, where the lady that has basically that was a serial killer of small children, and then you see from the perspective of the killer as it's hunting down its prey. It was like, oh yeah, that's nicely done. It was just sad that the art was quote unquote not to my liking. So it was like, yeah, it kind of fell on its face as well in that regard. But just the idea of it was nice. It was well done. But under no circumstances was it like, oh my god, we need to get out the cavalry in order to keep me going. Otherwise, I might flatline somewhere. No. It's more like a spooky ghost stuff.
Kazum, I'm glad that you brought up the artwork for the last issue. I did not have a question for this specifically, because I knew I would get blowback if I mentioned it, just because of who the artist is. But I did not like the artwork that issue either. That artist is, let's see, hold on. Does it mention it? Where is his name? It's like one of the famous artists. Hold on. Illustrated by Klaus Janson. Yeah, it's Klaus Janson on pencils and inks for that Rise of the Midnight Suns Unlimited story. I did not like the artwork for that one. I missed Andy Kubert whenever it comes to art. And like, Klaus Janson is like one of the most praised artists, especially again his work for Doctor Doom. There's like this famous panel of him that I always see, especially like whenever I go look at Essential Sequentials, because he's on there and he charges like $1,500 for a commission. That's like on the low end too. But yeah, I did not like his artwork for that one. Let's see. Oh yeah, here it is. Let me save that and I'll throw it in the chat as well. My computer will load. That'd be great. Yeah, just a small side tangent. I did not like the artwork for that one. Carter, Did you think that these series of books focus more so on the horror elements, or did it feel like a superhero story wearing a horror costume, if you will?
Definitely superhero with the trappings of horror.
Mm-hmm.
I would say I also suffer from the affliction of not having ever found a comic scary.
Mm-hmm.
That's not to say that I don't think I could. I just haven't, and maybe part of that is just I haven't tried to read a lot of horror comics. So I hope one day that one does, but I think I tend to bend towards like the sort of psychological horror stuff, and uh, I would hazard a guess that most '90s comics are not about psychological horror versus just being what this one was and just kind of like edgy stuff. Um, I would say I probably would struggle to find anything in this art style particularly scary. So it would have to be like an outstanding story
Mm-hmm.
because even past the Jansen artwork in that one issue, I don't care for a lot of the art in the OG stuff. Um,
Mm-hmm.
First issue was kind of interesting because like I haven't read a lot of '90s, so I was like, oh okay, I get where everyone's saying it's all kind of like spiky and got
Mm-hmm.
that vibe, but I tired pretty quickly of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, not horror in any sense of the matter to me, except unless you count the endings as being horrific, which I might. But
Yeah, it's very, again, like you said, it's very 90s. It's got the leather jackets, it's got the spikes, it's got what was her name? The girl in Death Watch. She's only wearing a bra for like the top. She's not wearing like a full
Heck,
shirt. Yeah, Hag. Um so Hag's dressed like
she
almost like
didn't
the
look like a
Wonder
hag.
Woman. Hag's almost dressed like a 90s Wonder Woman, which I've shared before in the chat, like what she's looked like when we got on that topic. But yeah, again, it's very 90s coded, especially with the art style. So yeah, uh, it seems like we're on board so far. But Jay, do you think these books focus more so on the horror aspect, or is it a superhero story with the trappings of a horror book?
Superhero story with the trappings of horror book. I can see that they kind of tried showing a horror theme for it, like for like the 1990s, with it being Frankenstein and the Mummy and all these separate characters. I can see what that they were trying to scare people, and some people were probably scared of this whole team of, well, let's say like famous Halloween monsters. But no, I personally didn't get scared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, then it seems like we're all in that same boat. And just like Cosm, I'm more of a psychological horror person. Like that's what works the best for me. Um yeah, now for the Rise of the Midnight Suns, so the 1990s book, the event took place across different books. We saw Spirits of Vengeance, Night Stalkers, Morbius, so on and so forth. Um, did the story feel cohesive to you, or did it feel disjointed at some points? This style of like event is what they used in the 90s a lot. Batman Nightfall was spread across Batman, Detective, and Shadow of the Bat, and so this is just something that the comics industry did as a whole. They would spread out the story across multiple books, and so you would have multiple artists and multiple writers working on things all at once. So like Andy Kubert is the artist for the first book, for the first Spirits of Vengeance, and then it goes to Adam Kubert for the second issue of Spirits of Vengeance, and then there's also other writers for the various issues, and so I would say uh, it I never really felt disjointed at some points, although I think the part of that has to do with the whole and then this happened and this happened of 90s writing, where it's like it already feels disjointed because there's like they're constantly hitting you with like new things, and so I guess I never felt the idea of like this is disjointed, but maybe that's just me. Cosm, did this story, did the event feel cohesive or did it feel disjointed at some points for you?
I didn't
Dang it.
necessarily feel that it was like you know, not cohesive.
Mm-hmm.
It was more like you could have probably padded it out with more issues, so that it leads better into the ending. If you would have given this like 2 more issues and did you have a better end battle almost, or at least what I missed was the whole, because essentially when all the midnight suns end up at that particular area, is already done for, because the prophecy has spoken that
Mm-hmm.
as soon as he end up with 9 or whatever it was, the magical number, then it's all already done. So he failed in that mission. So why would Lilith even, she might be, narcissistic and cruel and blah blah blah, and my plan will never fail, that kind of a villain arc. But the idea was already lost at that point in time. I think it would have been worth more while if, for example, one of the Midnight Suns got killed and then perhaps got brought back at the final moment, or she was tricked by, thinking that somebody was dead and it wasn't dead, and it then came back. Just give a little bit more of an idea instead of, the feeling of, okay, but if she goes into this battle, it's already done for because the prophecy says A. So
Mm-hmm.
why would you still go on with A and not try this? Why would she go along with this in that sense? Because she had a plan in that sense. So that was something I would have seen that particular story done better in that sense, so that it has a more logical framework for what the outset was set by her, the villain in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
As in, I need to fight less than 9 of them, because then I will succeed. So either kill somebody, probably not killing them, or tricking her, or doing something like that, so that this story becomes a little bit more of a, they don't know this whole idea, so they go in there thinking that they're going to succeed, and then perhaps like 1 or 2 die or whatever. You can play along those kind of lines, and make it an actual impactful thing or story, or they can be resurrected afterward or whatever the fuck. But at least at that point in time, it's like, oh shit, you're going to lose. And if you would have taken 1 or 2 more issues out to do that, I think you could have a lot more memorable thing. And again, it's not going to be a masterpiece, but I would think it would be more cohesive thing overall and just more enjoyable in that sense.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair
and
enough.
For
Go ahead.
And for 2023, I later, not now.
Yeah, we're focusing on the 90s book right now, but we'll get back to the 2023 series here in a moment. But Carter, did you ever feel that the story was disjointed, or did it feel cohesive for you?
It was cohesive very tenuously because it's kind of just here's everybody doing their thing, and some of them have beef with Lilith, but then Strange is gonna bring you all together and just tell you to attack her. Like, I don't remember why the Night Stalkers were there, other than the fact that they're just magical, sort of, I guess, and they're strong enough to fight demons. Like, I don't remember if they had beef with Lilith. And like I said before, the Montesi and them really had no reason to be there other than she's like the chosen one for some reason. So very, very tenuously tied together, which was working well enough, I guess, until it didn't at the end. But
yeah, I have my own complaints with Montesi. Let's see. But I'll get to that here in a minute, because I have questions for like each specific team member, or like team groupings, if you will, for the older series. So we'll get back to Montesi here in a moment. But Jay, did you feel that this story was cohesive, or did it feel disjointed at all for you?
I don't really know this one. I'll have to read a lot more.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Um.
I'm like far behind.
Well, then let's move on to my next question. So, our two main characters, if you will, of the 1990s event is Johnny and Ghost Rider. So, what did you think of Johnny and Ghost Rider's relationship in Rise of the Midnight Suns book? I touched on it earlier. I felt that I liked Johnny's struggle early on, but then it got a bit repetitive as he keeps being brought back in to fight against these demons or whatever monsters Danny and the Spirit of Vengeance have to go up against. I thought their relationship was interesting because it's a conflict of interest, because I don't know if conflict of interest is the right term, but Johnny wants to separate himself from the Spirit of Vengeance, and yet the Spirit of Vengeance keeps getting involved in his life. We know that Lilith, her children go to kill Johnny's family at the circus, and so he sends his family away while he goes and deals with this. And so it's like Johnny keeps trying to quit, but he keeps being brought back in. And of course, the Spirits of Vengeance is his whole deal is like helping the innocent or like stopping Lilith, and so he's just on a warpath, and he doesn't mind if he drags Johnny alongside him. But yeah, I like the relationship. I'd like to see more of it. So maybe whenever I do eventually read the Spirits of Vengeance, I'll actually get to see more of it, because again, we didn't see much of Danny during this, and so I'm not sure like what Danny and Johnny's relationship is. We only really see the Spirit of Vengeance and Johnny's relationship, so I'm curious how that is. And they start off the event by saying, "Oh, we need to help Danny because his throat was torn out by a blackout." And so I'm like curious, like what's with all that. So I have some more reading to do whenever it comes to Ghost Rider. But yeah, I thought their relationship was interesting at the very least. Cosm, what did you
never got resolved, right?
Never got resolved in this, but it probably got resolved in their solo series.
Sure.
Yeah, it wasn't resolved in this. But Cosm, what did you think of Johnny and Ghost Rider's relationship in this book?
Again, I think that I probably misread it from the perspective that I thought Danny Ketch was a spirit of vengeance, and the Spirit of Vengeance is a separate entity. As far as now that you guys are speaking about, like, okay, yeah, that's probably where I got simply the idea wrong. It's probably also explained in the beginning, because it actually said that when they take over, they don't necessarily know who or what is in control of that. This so does say so, but I foolishly at the start kind of intertwined them both, attributing Spirit of Vengeance to Danny Ketch in that sense, which isn't the case. Like I said, I like the two bros on a bike shooting stuff. You know, that's a bit oversimplification, but that's what it's on about. We go on an adventure, boys, and we're shooting stuff in the face. And again, I think it's nice, but it's not something you can do 30 issues about, I think, in all honesty. It's nice for something like this, but if this is like an entire book, it's like, oh boy, are we going to run into some creative issues, so to speak. I think that, again, Blaze, what I found weird is that Blaze was, in the first issue, the one who was tempering the Spirit of Vengeance, and then it flipped on its head. So that was kind of weird to see that happen, and kind of Spirit of Vengeance was trying to keep Blaze from killing people, which is fine, of course. I mean, I don't know enough about the character to, say if it's good or bad or whatever. But it was just like, okay, supposedly. So yeah, I liked the things between them as far as this, but you never really get anywhere deep in that sense. I mean, it gets set up, but it kind of, and I think this is one of those moments that I don't like calling it, but these are children's books. That's kind of the feeling that you get. It's kind of kept simple. It's nothing really that, and also you can basically almost pick any issue up and you can go from there. I finally get the idea, especially in this particular reading area. I think, I could probably start off with issue 3 and still get the gist of this without having to go back into to the first one. So yeah, all in all, I would say that you can see some stuff happening between them, especially on the Blaze part where he is with circuits and stuff, and you see some more personal elements of him throughout, which is nice. But it's also he's always being pulled back into this because he's been told by the CRS from, yes, but you're magical, blah blah blah, and you're now always attracted by this being. It's like, okay, sure, I guess that's the reason why he has to do it. But I don't know. There was also something I found weird is at let me check. At the Spirit of Vengeance, the last issue, he jumped from the a 3-story building on top of a motorcycle. Is Blaze still superhuman after he got despirited, or is this something you don't need to think too hard about and just ignore it and go along? Because I
Probably.
get that the ghost can do it. Because it's not happening. I was like, hey, wait a second, can he survive this shit?
Might be the latter, although I'm not too sure because I don't know much about Ghost Rider outside of this. This is like the first proper Ghost Rider book that I've read. Other books that I've read are like I did read the World War Hulk tie-in for that, so I guess I have read some not Spider-Man, Ghost Rider before this. I was going to mention like I said Spider-Man because I was thinking back to your point about how you could like jump in on this. There's literally like one of the Spider-Man issues is like Peter recapping what's happened previously, and so that ties very much into the like every comic is someone's first, so you have to explain what's happened the previous couple of issues within the first page, and so they hit you with it. I'm also curious to see like your future thoughts on Ghost Riders because you said you aren't sure if you could read like 30 issues of this, and yet the event starts at Ghost Rider issue 28, and there's also the Spirits of Vengeance series. So I'm curious if like once you get to those Ghost Rider omnis, I'm curious how your experience with those will be. But Carter, what did you think of Johnny and Ghost Rider's relationship in this book?
I thought it was decent. Like I think you mentioned, Hayden, we don't really get much of Dan, which is kind of odd. And so I would like to go back and probably start at issue 1 and read, some of that just to get some of Ketch's characterization and stuff and figure out, how did Johnny get rid of the spirit and all that. Um, but it was definitely, I guess I would say it's probably the only actual relationship in this storyline because everyone else is just like established friends and we don't get to see any kind of development between them. But like these are the only two where they go from kind of like I guess it's like a classic kind of buddy cop relationship where he's like, I can't stand you, but I have to work with you, so I'll make the best of it. And then by the end, they're like, they at least like rely on each other and all that stuff. So, predictable, but one of the highlights of this story. So,
For sure, for sure. Speaking of friends that we get to see that are already friends before this, we get to see the beginning of the Night Stalkers solo series as a part of this event. What did you think of that group of characters and their mission to rid the world of all spooky creatures of the night? So let me go back actually to see if I can find out who the writer is, because it's a different writer than Howard Mackey. I think their last name starts with a K. Now I'm like quickly flipping through everything. But it's a different writer, different artist. That's Chichester. All right. Which he said had a not so good Daredevil book. But yeah. Anyways, we get to see the beginnings of that team. They've already been pre-established, so I assume that these are characters from like a previous maybe Doctor Strange book, because they all seem to have like some relationship to Doctor Strange in some way. They all know him, or maybe there was a Blade book before this. I could be wrong. I don't know much about Blade. I haven't read any Blade solo books before this, so I'd be interested
I
to.
think some of them started off in like the Dracula books.
Yeah, I haven't read those either. But yeah, So yeah, the writer for Night Stalkers is DG Chichester, and the penciler is Ron Garney, with Tom Palmer on on inks and colors. Um, yeah, I thought it was a okay group. It's sort of just like we need to flesh out the Midnight Suns a bit more. Who's like some other monster characters we have? Yeah, those guys. Those are the Night Stalkers. Um, we need to flesh out the team a bit more. Who's some other supernatural characters that we have? Oh, we've got the Night Stalkers. They're already pre-established. Let's just throw them into the melting pot, if you will. And so that's their inclusion. And they also have their own solo book, which they continue to get folded into the future Midnight Suns books. So if you ever do continue your Midnight Suns reads, you will see more of these guys here in the future. But I thought their team was alright. Blade is definitely my favorite out of the three. Didn't really care for the other two. But those are my thoughts on the Night Stalkers. Cosm, what did you think of the introduction of the Night Stalkers for this story?
Yeah, like you said, I think that seeing that this is an event, you probably have either miniseries or probably something else that goes before this, and then do you need to quote unquote build them up entirely? They are probably pre-built from somewhere, and then you read this event as quote unquote the thing you want to read, or follow up or whatever it is going back in those days, quote unquote. So I think that's why they kind of get one issue to go from why are they doing here, how are they working together, and then to this is why they're joining up against the forces of darkness or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, yeah, so for that point alone, it's adequate. But if you are a fan of Blade, you probably have read the Blade series, and then going into this one, it's like, oh yeah, nice. Probably somebody who was a fan back at those days could have seen themselves probably happy that his character was being used at all in a sort of a quote-unquote event of some form. So I think by that alone, I mean, personally, except Blade, like I said, I got one guy with gun and one was king.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of says enough about them. I mean, nothing really spectacular or interesting about it. Yeah, they seem to be friends, but sometimes apprehensive friends. Everybody came out from their own direction. Blade was in the hospital on the psychic ward, and this guy was down in the dumps, alcoholic, and the other one from Tomb Dracula. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know. I don't have enough knowledge to tie that all together, except from just go along. Okay, they know each other. Nice. Don't ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
Go forward.
Yeah, and like the other vampire guy that's not Blade has like the power to control rats and uses the rats to go eat the demon. It's like, all right, I guess he has that power. But Carter, what did you think of the Night Stalkers for the little bit that we get to see of them for this?
Yeah, like I mentioned before, these guys were just included to fill the roster, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
So like Blade is cool, and I would like to read more Blade to be more knowledgeable. But the other guys, like if this was a Blade book and those guys were some of the supporting cast, like I would probably be into it. But like here, I guess one of them's a vampire too, and the other one's like a vampire hunter who's also a vampire, I think, for some reason. So he's basically just a clone of Blade.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, not
Living
much
vampire.
positive. Yeah, not much positive to say about it. Although in terms of like controlling the rats, I do think that's, if I'm not mistaken, that's the guy that was the descendant of Dracula, and one of
Mm-hmm.
Dracula's powers was that he could control small animals like bats and rats. I'm pretty sure. So
Mm-hmm.
that didn't bother me much. But yeah, also not knowing these guys before having to Google them is not make for the best reading experience always. But sometimes
Yeah.
that's just what you got to do when, especially when I don't read a lot of Marvel. So.
Mm-hmm.
But looking at this, when you're looking at Blade, and this might sound a little bit, facetious or wrong, I guess, but taking out our knowledge of Blade, would you still say this was a good character if you only have to go by this particular story or framing or whatever? Because I know Blade from the movies and I find Blade cool, so that's why I find this Blade cool. But is this character as it is here presented, or is it just our our mental framework of Blade that makes this character?
It's
100% the mental framework because
Okay,
I haven't read any Blade, nor have I seen the movies yet, and I was like, well, Blade's supposed to be cool, so I guess.
yeah, I had the same.
the only thing they introduce about Blade in this is one, he was locked up in a prison and Doctor Strange got him out. And he was locked up in a insane asylum because people thought he was insane or whatever. And then he's also he likes pointy, sharp objects because there's literally a page where they're all gearing up and he's testing out his katanas or whatever. That's all you really know about him is, oh, he's the guy with the swords and the blades, and he fights people melee rather than use long range weapons like the guy that has the blaster, if you will. And he's a vampire, but he can't control rats like the other guy. So it's he's just sort of there. So it's definitely our preconception of Blade that's definitely helping what we think of this interpretation, if you will.
Yeah, but just wondering.
how
It was
how did he get out of
Go ahead.
that insane asylum so easily? It's like one of his friends was just like, "No, trust me, I'll take care of him," and they're like, "Okay, cool."
It was Doctor Strange that got him out at the beginning.
Oh, right. I guess that's more sensible.
Yeah,
But
because
even then, would you still let a guy out called Blade? Who has still fantasies about killing vampires?
yeah, because there's a page at the beginning of the issue where you see Doctor Strange is pretending to be the leader of the psychiatrist, or I guess the leader of the facility, because there's a psychiatrist that's talking to him and he's like, hey, I don't think you should let him out, because no, let him out. I'm literally looking at the page right now, and also I'm curious what Doctor Strange was up to during this time in the comics, because it's he's manipulating all the pieces and yet he doesn't fight Lilith himself, and they come up with an excuse where it's oh, if I fight Lilith, then both of us will lose because she will get the Darkhold, and so we need to assemble this team of people that are weaker than Lilith so that they can rise up against her, so on and so forth. And I'm just what was going on with Doctor Strange in his solo series?
It has something to do with the veil of magic would be weakened, and therefore she could pull more demons into this realm, or something like that. It was.
Yeah, they said their fight would destroy the dimensions or whatever, and I'm
yeah, essentially, and which would lead her to introducing more demons into this realm. But it's okay, sure, I guess, whatever.
And I could buy that excuse
Oh, yeah.
if they hadn't used Doctor Strange for the third Midnight Suns event where he fights Chthon, who is another demon type of character that's similar to Lilith in power, if not more powerful, because in the Midnight Suns video game, the whole deal is that Lilith is trying to summon Chthon, so theoretically Chthon is tougher than Lilith. So if Doctor Strange is willing to fight Chthon, why didn't he fight Lilith? It's just a whole mess for me personally.
It's a pretty weak excuse. My limited knowledge of Strange is composed entirely of his main job is to keep Dormammu out of this dimension. So the idea that he cannot fight evil because of a wink in the dimensional barriers does not make any sense to me when his entire job is to upkeep the dimensional barrier.
Exactly. And some of this stuff gets overthrown in in future Doctor Strange runs. Again, some of the stuff that Donny Cates has Doctor Strange do makes this seem Strange could have joined in on the fight, but he did it for whatever reason. I assume there's something going on in his solo series, and he was just taken off the board or whatever, and so he was forced to be a background character. But again, not sure who was on Doctor Strange during this time. This would have been 1992, I believe. 1992 Doctor Strange. Who was on this? That's the Sorcerer Supreme Annual. So that would have been John Mark Lofficer and Roy Thomas. So this was the Roy Thomas era, which I have not read yet. I think I have one of the epics of his. Anyways, Doctor Strange tangent aside, we get another character introduced to the team or added onto the team. We also get to see Morbius in this book. It is indeed Morbin time. I should have prepped this meme anyways, but here it goes.
You said the thing!
What did you think of his characterization in this event and his promise to only drink the blood of those who deserve it? Again, I feel like it's the idea that, we need to flesh out this roster a bit more with some more monster characters. Who's another monster character that we've recently used? It's Morbius, because he was previously in a Doctor Strange story. Again, this would have been the Roy Thomas era, so I'm not sure if he's in that run specifically or maybe a previous story. And he's also just like a spooky vampire character, so let's throw him into the team. Morbius was all right. They also like upgrade his power set a bit because they like have him accidentally drink demon blood, or like he was given the medicine, but the guy didn't know that demon blood was in it, and so he's like, if you drink demon blood, does it make you a half demon at that point? That's a question I have for the Marvel universe. But yeah, I thought Morbius was alright. He's just there to flesh out the cast. I probably wouldn't read his solo series outside of this, but those are my thoughts on him. Cosm, what did you think of Morbius in this book?
I do have to say, I think the blood doesn't necessarily change him, but he started mutating because of it. I'm not sure if that's part of the other side of the concoction that that interacts with it and then mutates into that sense. So if you want to make it quote unquote make sense,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know. Back to Morbius itself. To be very honest, I haven't seen the movie at all, so I can't say anything about it beyond the memes and the breakdowns that I've seen and witnessed in that sense. However, even with that in the back of my head, when I was reading this story, I was like, hey, this is quite interesting. I think you can actually do something with this. And to have it be in a movie and have it been somewhere along the lines, so maybe have been fucked up, it's like, how? Because I still think that you could do something with this. And I think there is some form of tragedy in there as well. I mean, to be honest, I found it quite a compelling character in that sense. Again, it's not going to reach the stratosphere, but as an ancillary character that has some development time, and I guess this is quote unquote the upgraded origin story powers. His girlfriend dies and everything else, and it's like, oh man, he's dealt a raw hand, and then goes within the same idea of vengeance stuff. Only then I will drink the blood of those who need to be avenged or need to have vengeance acted upon them. I guess So yeah, I think you can do something with this. But I don't mind the character at all in that sense. It's just like, yeah, how it almost makes me want to watch the movie and just see how bad it is. I'm not going to, because this morning I watched this horrible movie called Transformers Animal Spirits or whatever the fuck it was. And boy, do I hate you guys, because I wasted an entire day on this bullshit. Anyway, so yeah. That's my fucking 5 cents.
Look, I did not say Rise of the Beasts was good. It was Electrics who was saying it was good.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't good.
Yeah, it was not good. They got Pete Davidson for some reason for that movie. I don't know. That's a whole side tangent within itself. Maybe.
No, let's not go there.
Yeah. Anyways. Like you were saying, I do think the concept is interesting. I knew about his desire to drink blood because of the 90s Spider-Man cartoon, although in that it was plasma because they couldn't show blood in kids' cartoons. But in this, it's full on blood. And so there's that tragic effect where it's almost like he's an addict for it. Like he has this constant need or this constant want in his head to go drink blood. And it's even more so tragic whenever his girlfriend or his love interest dies and she's bleeding out in his arms and he hasn't drank blood in a bit. and he gives in to that desire and drinks her blood, and then he's like, what have I done? So there is that tragic element to it, but it's also like I'm not sure if I care about Morbius enough to continue reading his his solo series.
No. But simply for a bottled comic, an episode, so to speak, I think you can do something with this.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have greenlit a movie about it, but I would still think that you could do something with it, and even like a mini or a moxie if you would have. I'm not sure how much. Does he have a comic before this, or is it just solely from the Spider-Man animated series that he's introduced in this particular comic?
I just looked it up. His solo series went on for 32 issues. This one that started with this book. So,
Sounds like an omnibus size.
Yeah, it went from 1992 through 1995. But yeah, I don't think he had a solo series before this. I think this was his first one.
Okay. Yeah, then I can imagine it being a little bit disjointed, because it seems to be probably you need to have seen, quote unquote, you need to have seen the animated series in order to get this particular, which I did back in the day.
Yeah.
So I remember that a little bit tangentially.
Yeah, I remember him in the 90s series, and also, of course, all the memes whenever Morbius happened. I think I haven't watched the movie, but I've watched clips, and the best part of that movie is like whenever Matt Smith is dancing as he's like getting ready. That's probably like the best scene in that movie, I would say.
I mean, the best part is that it's like a PG-13 movie about blood. But green blood, it's like, oh my god. It's the same idea with Venom, PG-13. It's like, god fucking damn it. I will never forgive them.
Carter, what did you think of Morbius in this book?
I thought he was one of the lesser offensive characters. Like, if you don't have anything to do with him, like shoving him on a magical demon hunter squad, like, it seems fairly reasonable. I probably wouldn't read a Morbius solo series unless, it was like some crazy creative team, like, I don't know, Tom Taylor and Bill Sienkiewicz or something, something that would blow me out of the water. I'm also a Morbius movie truther. I believe that movie is pretty good, other than one major flaw, which is that the bad guy has no actual motivation, which, some would say that makes the movie bad, but I think otherwise it's a pretty entertaining movie with a lot of visual uniqueness. But that aside, we can argue about Morbius another day. I thought he was fine. Maybe it's kind of dumb that they needed to upgrade his powers or whatever, but maybe that was just to give him the self-control to not try to kill his teammates. I don't know. Like, I think the idea of a vampire that's trying to just kill bad guys is, interesting enough. So
yeah, I know the Discord used to do movie watch-alongs. This was like before I showed up. But I think it could be fun to do a Morbius watch-along here in the Discord in the future. If that's something we could set up, that could be fun. Because again, I've never seen it, and I feel like it would be better to watch it with other people and just like laugh at it together.
Yeah, okay. Still.
Moving on from the characters. So the Darkhold has been in Marvel Comics for a while, but Rise of the Midnight Suns dives deeper into the lore surrounding this ancient artifact. What did you think of its use here? Do you like knowing more about the Darkhold, or would you prefer the Darkhold have more secrets than answers? So the Darkhold has been around for a very long time. It is probably the most powerful magical object within the Marvel Universe. Again, it was showcased within Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange has used the Darkhold before. The Darkhold was introduced in the MCU with WandaVision. The Darkhold is one of the key parts of the Midnight Suns video game. It is basically the Infinity Gauntlet of like magic items within the Marvel Universe. And so it makes sense that it would show up here. And we also learned that there's been pages that have been torn out that are being handed out by uh, a short gentleman or a short demon. Don't know exactly what he is, but he's powering up people around Earth with pages of the Darkhold. And so personally, I don't like knowing more about the Darkhold because the answers that we got in this weren't interesting to me. I think if it was like a better writer, maybe a more modern take on the Darkhold and like expanding the lore behind it, I'd be more interested. Maybe like a writer like PKJ could do something interesting with the Darkhold, but in terms of the expansions that we got in this, I wasn't necessarily interested. Much like Carter, I didn't care for the Montesi character and her surrounding characters. So because of that, I didn't really care for a Darkhold #1. And so I would say for this, I would prefer more secrets than answers whenever it comes to the Darkhold. But Cosm, what did you think of the Darkhold's introduction and use within this book?
Yeah, I mean, beyond the book or the pages that have been torn out and have been given by this little midget-esque demon, that concept I like, by the way. I like the idea of it, that there is some form of entity or being, or even maybe the Darkhold is, has some form of I guess knowledge or sentience to it, that it does these things, like influencing the world and doing something, though its goal may be quote unquote just to stir chaos or whatever the fuck it is doing. I like that kind of idea. But again, I think less is more, like in these kind of cases. I don't think you need to highlight this particular element more than it has been. And from what I could gather, I know that I can't remember receiving any kind of explanation here. From again, but that's a little bit. So yeah, I wouldn't know about that one. Beyond that, I like it. But yeah, I do not know. I didn't know that the Darkhold was that powerful in that sense. I know it from the Wonder movie. But yeah, again, she destroyed it. So at that point, it was for me a little bit okay. It's not like the Infinity Gauntlet essentially.
Yeah,
Allegedly destroyed.
Yeah, in the comics and like games, especially Midnight Suns, it's a very powerful object. That's why there's a post-credit scene for the video game. Like after the credits, you see Doctor Doom's hand go on the Darkhold, and he's like, now it's my turn, basically. And I was like excited for that because I'm like, Doctor Doom with the Darkhold, that is a powerful concept. Like that is someone that you don't want having the Darkhold and like seeing what he would do with it. So yeah, the Darkhold is a very powerful object. You would learn more from it from Doctor Strange previously, because I want to say that's where the book was introduced. Let me look it up real quick. Which comic introduced the Darkhold? Darkhold. Let's see. There's too many answers for me to go scrolling through. Anyways, it was showcased in like Doctor Strange stuff. So it is a very powerful magic object, but I would see you being like a newcomer to it, how like you might not know that it's exactly that powerful or whatever, especially with the WandaVision interpretation of the Darkhold. I think the MCU could have done better with that, and maybe they'll do better with the Midnight Suns movie if they use a Darkhold in that, which I'd be very excited if they do. But Carter, what did you think of the Darkhold's use in this, and do you prefer more secrets than answers, or do you like knowing more about this ancient artifact?
I think using the secret magic book is kind of like a tiring MacGuffin. So I think trying to make it interesting by explaining bits and pieces of it is interesting. Like I thought the little, what was his name, the black dwarf or something, black gnome that was handing out the pages.
Mhm.
He was cool. It kind of reminded me of like the kid in what's that Ghost Machine book right now? Reminded me of that book,
High Street.
whatever. Uh, yeah, it reminded me of Hyde Street. I haven't read Hyde Street, so just because he was short and giving out evil shit. So, but yeah, I thought that was interesting. And they didn't really do much with it. Um, but I would say, in general, the Darkhold is pretty interesting to me.
Mhm.
Similarly to Ghost Rider, my first Darkhold experience comes from Agents of Shield because the whole point of those seasons was that Ghost Rider was trying to keep the Darkhold away from evil people, which was pretty
Mhm.
cool. So yeah, I mean, it worked, even though it was kind of like a half measure, and I would have liked to see it be the next villain, and maybe it is in one of the future crossovers. I don't know, but
Mhm.
if there was, I would read that probably. And I was also looking at the wiki page, and apparently in the Marvel universe, the Necronomicon is based off of part of the Darkhold, so it's like a
Mm.
nerfed version of the Darkhold, which is kind of funny.
Mm. Yeah, and then I guess it's like a chicken or the egg situation, because you would think that the Necronomicon would like inspire the Darkhold, but then the Darkhold is the thing that inspired the Necronomicon. It's a whole can of worms, I guess, but yeah, I love the Darkhold as a concept. Um, I think the execution here could have been better, but like you, I would be interested to see if it's used in the future Midnight Suns event because the Darkhold wasn't in the Donny Cates stuff in terms of the Midnight Suns. But I'm curious if it was used in Midnight Madness or Siege of Darkness. I would assume it's used in Siege of Darkness because, again, going back to the video game, in the Midnight Suns video game, the Darkhold is needed to summon Chthon, and Chthon is the main villain of Siege of Darkness, so I'd assume it makes its reappearance of that. Last question for the Lilith. Go ahead.
Just for my, is that like Dormammu kind of personality or something else entirely?
Dormammu esque, but like I guess
Okay.
the Dormammu of hell, if you will.
Okay. Yeah.
From what I know, at least from the video game. But last question for the Lilith arc when it comes to Midnight Suns. What did you think of the final battle against Lilith in Rise of the Midnight Suns? For me, it was sort of like it started off with like, oh, we're gonna fight each other. The Night Stalkers are gonna try to kill Ghost Rider again, but then oh, there's Lilith. Let's suddenly stop fighting and go fight her instead. And so it was a little bit all over the place in terms of like their reasoning as to why they like teamed up to fight Lilith, and then it just sort of becomes like a people complain about like MCU movies with like the CGI fest sort of last battles, but this is like I guess the comic book fest last battle, if you will, where it's like just a bunch of random stuff happening, and then like we spoke about earlier, Ghost Rider folds in Lilith on herself because she had opened a portal on her own body, and just a whole can of worms instead. I liked the in battle for like the visual feast, like actually looking at it and seeing these characters like fight Lilith. But in terms of like logic, I have like a couple of questions for that last bit. Like he folded in Lilith on herself, but she's still alive, so what happened to her? But but yeah, I enjoyed it in terms of visual, but not necessarily in terms of story. But those are my 2 cents. Cosm, what did you think about the final battle against Lilith?
Fortunately, it kind of collapsed at that sixth issue. Unfortunately, I'm not sure if this is just planning or whatever, or the story outset. Again, I cannot crawl into the mind of somebody else in that sense, but when you plan out a story, this is not how you do it. I would say, at least you could. Again, Lilith's outset was not fight against the Nine. What she does do, fuck it, I'm still going to fight against the Nine. Yeah, there should have been created some form of effort or at least idea that the Midnight Suns would be quote unquote entrapped. one of them or two of them die, come back, blah blah blah, yada yada, whatever said previously, and that
Mhm.
then the battle concludes in some way. I think, especially in end battles, readability is important. I get the idea of, when you keep it obscure, you can always do these kind of shenanigans, like you fold it into one another, and all of a sudden she pops out of the fucking ice underneath the ice or some nearby cave. It's like, really? It's
Mhm.
like, oh man. This is then that's become the point where it becomes annoying. Um, again, the writer, I would think. I mean, maybe she gets reborn again, or she, for example, if you really want to go dark or darker,
Mhm.
this Nakato creature that was still alive at the end. Perhaps she bursts through her again, and she gets reborn again through her, and that's
Mhm.
post battle or something. Again, re-emphasizes the how she treats that particular character throughout the entire story, but she's always pushed to the edges of her abilities, but the far side and the ability to see. And again, Lilith apparently knows everything except the thing that she needs to do or needs to know, and does know, and still doesn't do what she needs to do. It's like, okay, at that point, it's like, it's just annoying. And again, I don't know, sure if this is simply like 90 sensibilities, or just again because with the children's book, and I don't want to push comics down in that sense, but
Mhm.
at some point you have to ask the question: where does the book stop, and where does good storytelling, or at least adequate storytelling, take place, and where does creativity, ingenuity, where that does come into play. So yeah, again, the first 5 issues I kind of enjoyed actually quite a lot, and if I was like, oh man, I kind of would have wanted it to be more, bombastic, and then, okay, more impactful after everything that happened. But it kind of went through the motions for the feeling. It was like, okay, that I found again, not to the amount that they had with the 2023. That's like, fuck this book and gonna throw it outside and let it in the snow. But no, it was like, man, I hope for more, and especially I want to reiterate the art throughout the entire book. I like this kind of art. Not
Mhm.
necessarily, it's not perfect by far, but it does its thing for the most part. Especially those splash pages, broads where all the characters are out and the two catches or Danny and Blaze are like on the motorcycles and stuff. It's like, yeah, it's nice. It looks good.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think it's for the most part. But again, I'm not read up enough to say where the problem, quote unquote, lies in this particular way of storytelling.
Yeah, whenever it comes to the artwork, I'm not a fan of like modern Andy Kubert stuff. Like I don't like his Ultimate Iron Man or his Damian Son of Batman books. But this is like prime Andy Kubert for me. Like I love the look of older colors and pencils on his pencil, or older colors and inks on his pencils. And so this book has won me over in terms of Andy Kubert. And before Superjob types it, I have not read Batman Whatever Happened to the Cape Crusader. I think that's what it is. The like get who wrote that one. But that's like the Batman died and then it's like uh there's a funeral for him. I forget the exact name for it. I've also read the first omnibus of Andy Kubert's and Grant Morrison's Batman. That was all right in terms of artwork. Um, I've said this before, but I've always been more of an Adam Kubert guy. I can understand that. I haven't read much of Adam Kubert's stuff, but I did like what I saw in this. Um, but yeah, out of the two Kuberts, I would say so far, Adam has had more hits than misses than Andy for me. Um, but Carter, what did you think of the final battle against Lilith in Rise of the Midnight Suns?
Oh, I have said several times throughout this meeting that it was bad. I don't really have anything of substance to say other
Yeah.
than it was just really poorly thought out, and I I don't know how you would fix it. I guess I guess if the I I I guess I assumed that the Monteses would have some like secret magic stuff. Is that what they would do, right?
Mhm.
Yep,
And
like
oh,
sealing her or doing
the
something.
yeah, the fighters can't cut it, and at the last minute, she pulls out some spell or whatever and seals her away. But instead, we get whatever we got, where somehow she Ouroboroses herself
Mhm.
because they had to write themselves out of. It's like this is like the '90s equivalent of Madara and Naruto. Like just pull some nonsense out of your ass to get out of this hole we've dug ourselves in.
Mhm. Yeah, and this is the last you'll see of Montesi. I don't know if she's in the next Midnight Sun stories, but the Montesi stuff is talked about in the 2015 Carnage series of all books. I don't know what happened with that. Um, Also, if any of the Midnight Suns characters were going to die, I felt like it should have been Montesi's bodyguard because he's just a guy with a gun. Like he was brought in by the Vatican embassy or something to like protect her. So it's like if you're gonna kill someone, kill him because he's like human and all he has is a gun. Like just get it over with. Um, but that's my little side rant. So the next story we get is Rise of the Midnight Suns. We get the Spirits of Venom story. We briefly talked about this, but what are your general thoughts on this story arc, or your more in-depth thoughts on it? For me, I thought it was more, again, just more 90s stuff. Again, it felt like Howard Mackey just wanted to sort of do a combination between his different series because he was writing Spirits of Vengeance, Ghost Rider. He was also doing Venom. He was the one responsible for like Venom becoming more of an anti-hero around this time. And then he was also doing a Web of Spider-Man. So I just felt like he wanted to do a crossover between his books. And Marvel considers Venom and Spider-Man honorary Midnight Suns members because of the story arc, although they aren't like real official Midnight Suns, if you will. They weren't a part of the prophecy. And so for the story arc, I thought it was fine. Like it's your traditional 90s books. Definitely preferred the previous arc, but I didn't hate this one either. Although again, this the Midnight Suns with an O book was just like comic slot for me, where I was just eating it all up. So I guess I didn't really like look too in depth in terms of like story, if you will. But those are my general thoughts on the Spirits of Venom story. Cosm, what are your more in-depth thoughts on the Spirits of Venom story, if you have them?
Very little, to be honest. I went into this and I kind of find it a weird combination from the get-go. Not so much the troll and hag. It's like, okay, that's okay, but then suddenly Spider-Man comes into play and Venom, and it was like, I for some reason these characters, from my point of perspective, don't necessarily jive that well. I remember the only cool thing about the whole thing, and then it jumps from Spider-Man to some kind of goblin character. I'm not sure which one, Hobgoblin, I believe it is, but like, all kind of shit comes into the screen, and a six-armed spider-esque dude, and it's like, okay, I'm reading a Spider-Man or am I reading a Ghost Rider stuff? And it kind of flips back and forth. And I think the only cool thing that I found about this whole arc is that at some point Venom lashes out towards Spider-Man, and Ghost Rider does some of them does a chain like some of a horse girdle or bridle in his mouth, and then you yanks him backwards. I think that's almost the only cool part that I can remember from the whole thing. And I kind of, in all honesty, flipped through it. I read it, but it's like nothing really impressed me or stuck with me beyond that particular thing. That's like, yeah. So, yeah. That was it.
Also, I am a stickler whenever it comes to Venom and his teeth. I don't like whenever his teeth stick outward. There's like some panels of that where like his teeth are all over the place. I prefer it to go like up and down. I don't care if there's like multiple rows of teeth, but don't stretch out his teeth like that for some panels. That bothered me a bit. Also, this was like Howard Mackey sort of continuing his demo goblin story. So within a previous Spider-Man book, I mentioned this earlier, but Hobgoblin had been possessed by a demon who wanted to kill other demons so that he could be the only one and he could rid the world of all demons, yada, yada, yada. Demo Goblin creates Doppelganger Spider-Man. And so I feel like if you weren't reading Howard Mackey's other books at this time, you would be very lost with like the whole Demo Goblin stuff, because he just sort of like shows up at this time, if you will, just to add like even more trouble for Spider-Man and Ghost Rider and Blaze. I did like how like Blaze's interactions with Venom, where like Venom is just constantly trying to eat Spider-Man's brains and Blaze is over it, so he just like shoots Venom with a shotgun, just be like, I'm just tired of you, let's just move on. So I did enjoy that brief interaction. I also did like the fight between Ghost Rider and Venom, whenever we see like Venom being burned by Ghost Rider's like penance stare hellfire. There's also like within that scene, it's like something's going wrong because the penance stare is burning the Venom symbiote, not Eddie Brock Carnage, or not Eddie Brock. I almost said Eddie Brock Carnage because that's on my mind as well. But it's like it's affecting the symbiote, not Eddie, which is interesting. I don't know all the rules whenever it comes to the penance stare. Maybe that's something I can look into later. But I've rambled on long enough. Carter, what did you think about the Spirits of Venom story, if you have any more in-depth thoughts on it?
Other than what I mentioned before, where it's just kind of they fight and they win and they fight and they win again, and that not being interesting in the slightest. I think it's kind of like including Wolverine in the newer series is like including Venom here, where it's like, okay, yeah, Venom's like a big bruiser and he's probably useful when you've got just a bunch of magic twinks trying to fight the bad guys or whatever. But like including him doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole Demo Goblin is a super tenuous connection, and like you said, it's because the guy was right in the mall, and that's fine, whatever. But I would hesitate to call this like an event. You know, if in the modern day, you know, this would probably be equivalent to like Green Arrow right now, or Green Lantern right now, where he's just like visiting the different cities and like teaming up with people. And you know, I would much rather have just like a one-off team up issue than whatever this nonsense is.
Yeah, I can see that. And I feel like the reason it was collected for the new printing, because we all read like the newer printing of the Midnight Suns trade. I feel like the only reason that story is included is because of the video game. Because Spider-Man and Venom are playable characters in this, are playable characters in the video game. And so they're like honorary members because Marvel says that or whatever. But yeah, that's all I have to say about the vintage Midnight Suns book. So now we get to the 2022 Midnight Suns book. What did you think of the main story? So not the Agatha stuff. We'll get to that. I have a separate question for that. But what did you think of Zoe Laveau, Valtor, all of that stuff going on? Much like the 90s book, it feels like and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. I can give the 90s book more grace because, again, it's 90s. A lot of comics were the same way around that period of time. Whereas the 2022 book, I can't give that much leeway to. I feel like there's an interesting story that could have been told here, but the execution is not there for me. I like the idea of an old Agatha connection coming back to attack the Doctor Strange Academy, because this is the Strange Academy era of Marvel. So like all the magic users teach at their own Marvel version of Hogwarts, if you will. But again, I just felt that the execution wasn't great, and also some of the dialogue in this is not good, in my opinion. It's very like they would try to tell a joke and it just wasn't hitting for me for whatever reason. Maybe I just wasn't in the mood for it, but like, yeah, it was not working for me at all, for the main story at least. But those are my thoughts on it. Cosm, what did you think of the main story of the 2022 Midnight Suns book?
To be honest, I was simply starting to read and was like, okay, it's nice. You see certain things come back, and it's like I was kind of forgiving to a certain degree about it. It was like, yeah, it wasn't necessarily something interesting. But when I opened it, was like, oh, 110 pages. That's nice. I know it's not 400, so how are we getting there? And then at some point, was like, damn it, I want my 100 pages back. It and again, I'm a little bit again not to rag on all the book, but when I read this, it's like how can this get past so many people, either from the artist, either to the editor, to the writer, somewhere down the line, somebody would have thought it like, hey, I've read this passage already 5 times before, or a reference to the passage 5 times before. Let alone the continuity of the story, what it's trying to compose in itself, even that is beside the point. It's like, holy shit, you would think that this, I mean, I'm mostly sorry for the artist, in all honesty, because the artist actually did quite well. I mean, not what I find sometimes annoying these days is that often backgrounds aren't placed anymore, or at least they are placed in such a, sometimes you have a page without all backgrounds, and then sometimes you have a page with no backgrounds, and then it kind of shifts and it kind of just disjoints me in a little bit. And I'm not sure that I know myself, adequately when you need to put in a background and whatnot. But it's one of those most like, I just found it kind of weird. And you obviously get the purple and blue fucking backgrounds again, it's like, yeah, it goes spacing to the eyes, but it's, yeah, but this point, it's still a fucking trope. So yeah, I so many of the characters are just, like I said, one-dimensional to the point of the really, like, what's Wolverine's point here? It seems to me that he's just there because he's a popular character. Because he even himself is wondering, what the fuck am I doing here?
Yeah, he's just there because he's in the video game. This was made because there was a video game coming out, and so they're like, oh, we need that Midnight Suns miniseries, and so they put Wolverine in this because he's in the game. Although I don't get some of the roster choices because they aren't in the game. Like the Spirit Rider, she's not in the Midnight Suns video game. I'm not sure what was going on with Ghost Rider at this time in the comics. So I'm not sure if he was completely off the board and just wasn't available. But there's also multiple Ghost Riders, so they could have used like Robbie or Blaze or Danny or whatever instead of Spirit Rider. But yeah, also I did share a panel to like showcase some of the dialogue that didn't work for me. Whenever they're fighting like the big golem creature as they like escape the dark dimension, Blade is like, right on, magic, I call dibs on the leg that just kicked me. And that dialogue does not work for me. To me, that doesn't read as something Blade would say. And again, I don't have much experience with Blade whenever it comes to the comics. Like, again, have read any of his solo series. Anything that I've read with Blade has been like team ups. So maybe he talks like this in his solo series and I'm just off, but that dialogue does not work for me.
It's one of those things that the young kids would probably call it cringe.
Yeah.
That's how it reads for me. It's like, oh man.
Yeah, that's how it read for me as well. Like,
I don't like to use the word because it's so overused, but damn, there's a lot of cringe in this book.
Yeah, and like some of the decisions they make with this, like again, I mentioned them before, but the Tony Stark Sorcerer Supreme in the Dark Dimension, I was like, what? That's one of those and then this happened moments in the book for me. It's like, you had Dr. Voodoo in the first issue. You could have used him, and maybe it's like, Clea wanted Dr. Voodoo off the board, So she sent him to the dark dimension as well.
Or Doom
Yeah,
was already
or
there.
Doom.
Previous.
Yeah, and his inclusion felt weird as well. I guess like the Vision went out to all magic users and also Wolverine because Zoe Laveau got to him. Although if Zoe Laveau was sending out the visions, why would she select Doctor Doom? Maybe it had to happen because of the timeline. See, the ending makes no sense because it gets into the wibbly wobbly timey wimey stuff. Like Doctor Who can
And
get
you can do it well. Yeah, but you need to keep it simple.
Yeah, and it just
And you know that it's very funny because most timey wimey stuff is never not simple. But you need to at least keep you need to pick one timeline and stick to that particular timeline, which he did at the start of the book by making the Vision. This is the timeline that quote unquote matters, because this is what she sees in the character outfits that they have. So at some point in time, you get to the end of the book, the characters are wearing different clothes, wearing different things. You don't know the time where it's playing at. You don't know if it's even... At some point, it's like, with a Rick and Morty show. I'm actually, is this like the ship of Theseus Morty? Is this like the Morty that they lost 3 times backwards? Or I'm in a different time zone now again. At some point, and at that point, I kind of stopped caring at all. It's like, okay, I don't even know who these people are anymore. Because are they even those who they think that they are? And again, literally, I said my note, 92. The fuck? Question mark. Because there's a page now. Like 30, 93, 94. Distractus? Yes. Harkness explains the people how it goes while the new Voltor just blasted Spirit Rider. I mean, she will wait for the conversation, right, when it's happening. She's doing the jig in the background. I killed somebody. Let's wait until she, explains the half the backstory, the lore, and everything, how it's working, and yeah, and then from that point on, it started entirely convoluted, untrackable, and I tried my best because I reread it like probably around 3 or 4 times. It's like maybe I'm just too dumb for this shit, and I tried to, and I couldn't figure it out. I was like, okay, I'm just going to read through it and see what happens. Maybe because maybe at the end there will be the conclusion. And it even become worse and worse how far you read into it. It's like, oh my god, everything is boring. And then she comes out younger for some reason, and it's like, what the flying fuck? Yeah.
And the writer, Ethan Sachs, even tries to explain the timeline concept to you through magic. Magic says it's quite simple, really. Zoe's vision created a branch in the timeline for us in which we reacted by teaming up. Once Kushala made her connection with that other deader version of herself, she could use her ride the spirit power to open the rift between these realities and bring us along with her. And I'm exactly like Wolverine on the next panel where he's like, simple, first magic, now alternate timelines. That's where I am at with this book. And Superjob makes a great point here in the chat. Where did the second Nico come from? I don't know where she popped up from. She's like, suddenly there's 2 Nikos there. It's like a Deus Ex Machina. That might not be the right phrases for that, but she's just suddenly there because she needs to be there for plot reasons. It just made no sense. And again, I could forgive the 90s book because that's very 90s of like, and this happened and this happened. I can't forgive this book. And I don't know what else Ethan Sachs has written, but this has soured me in terms of their writing, and I'm not sure if I would check out another book by this writer because of this first experience with them. Also, I did... Go ahead.
And the worst part is, because I actually had to, like, okay, because at some point I made a comment in my notes that I simply put, I was like, I need to know who this writer is. So Ethan Sachs.
Mm-hmm.
I said, Ethan Sachs, well, suppose the writer, and then I would say, like, I probably never going to read anything from this, but this is the guy who wrote Old Man Quill, which is quite a high regard in that sense. It's like, okay. So it's like, but from all the other stuff that he's reading, that he's written, I've know mostly Star Wars, which gives me
Mhm.
even more worried. It's like, holy fuck, if he's going to fuck around there in the time warp and stuff, it's like, it's not going to end well either. Or if not worse.
Yeah, and also most recently, it looks like he's worked on some Avatar books for Dark Horse. My sister is big into Avatar recently. I would probably not get her those books.
No.
His latest book is from Marvel is Star Wars Boba Fett Black, White, and Red.
Seems right up his alley.
Yeah.
To be honest, he needs to stay away from the timey-wimey stuff at all, or dimensional phasing stuff, or anything.
Yeah. Real quickly, I was gonna tag in whenever it comes to the art. There is 2 artists for this series. So there's Luigi Zagaria, who did issues 1 through 5, but it also looks like there was a artist who helped, who is Alberto Foch. I'm not sure how to pronounce their last name, so I'm not sure like who's responsible for what panels. Maybe like the help artist is responsible for the panels that have like that don't really have backgrounds. That could be the case. But again, that's only for issues 3 and 5, so not really sure.
If I would be writing something, anything, I would give it to my girlfriend or something like, hey, read this shit. Yeah, do you at least get the concept of it? Even if she's not a geek or not a comics fan or whatever, I simply read it if it's understandable. You can't tell me that this has gone through any form of cohesive comprehension or readership. That is like, oh yeah, I totally get it.
Mhm.
Unless you have to somehow find the plot points that the writer provided but aren't prevalent in the story, there's no way to, in my opinion, connect this to any cohesive kind of element.
Mhm.
I don't know how. And it just keeps getting crazier and crazier the further you go into it.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the editors. The editors are Tom Groneman, who's like the main editor. Never heard of them. And the supervising editor is Nick Lowe, who is famous for editing the Spider-Man books. But I like some of the other books that Nick Lowe has edited. Like he edited the Jason Aaron Doctor Strange run. So maybe this is just like this is all Tom Groneman in terms of editing this book. And Tom was just like looking to get the assignment done, if you will. Um, I don't know. Superjob says, art wise, one of my pet peeves: put the flying characters above the non-flying characters. George Perez can get it right with hundreds of characters. There's no excuse not to get it right with 5. And then they say in parentheses, I was so mad I prepped. Also, one question about this flying panel: is Ghost Rider going fast enough to where like she's not gonna hit Blade? Because I imagine like Blade's going on a downward arc, so is his knee gonna hit her head? That's one question that I have for that panel. Carter, you've heard our rant, or you've heard us rant for a while now. What are your thoughts on the 2022 Midnight Suns main story?
Okay. So the main story is almost non-existent, right? The entire premise of this book is there's gonna be an apocalypse, and then Clea shoves all the people that could help into a different dimension because she's like, "No, I got this." And then she shows up last minute with no plan, and they just solve the problem for her, and it was completely awful. So there's really no plot. Uh, and other than that, I'll go through a list of some of my problems. So one, tagging off of what you said, whatever panel you were reading, where
Mm-hmm.
someone says out loud, she can use her ride the spirit power. My soul fucking left my body because I was like, am I reading a fucking Wikipedia page? Like, people don't talk like that in universe. That doesn't make any sense. And so whoever edited this is also not doing their job because that was nonsense. Uh, Second, I agree the dialogue is just genuinely awful. So here's another piece of dialogue I screenshotted on my phone. So this person says, I'm no expert, but it appears to have some magical protections in place. So let me try something more straightforward. Out of context, what character would you guess that was?
Something more straightforward. I think that's Nico whenever she goes to get the axe.
Okay, that was Wolverine. Now, in what fucking universe does Wolverine speak like
Yep.
that? Not one that I want to live in. So that was awful. Let's see. I assume we're going to talk about Nico's staff, but my main point of that is that why is she an instructor at this academy if she can't do any magic without her staff? Like, and she's scraping by on spells that Dr. Voodoo taught her, which then allow her to summon like marbles and other nonsense. That was that complete nonsense there. In issue 2, they introduced that axe, and they're like, "Yeah, this axe is so dangerous, it can cut almost anything." And then the entire series, it proceeds to cut 0 things.
Nothing. Yeah, true.
What the fuck?
Oh,
See,
yeah, that one.
I was so upset because I popped off for the axe's appearance. It's from the Jason Aaron Doctor Strange run. He uses the axe after magic is destroyed to fight his like villains that keep popping up. He uses it to fight like Dormammu, and yet she can't use it to defeat Doctor Doom, or she can't use
Dude,
it.
I knew that axe because you keep mentioning this particular omnibus with that particular cover, so I recognized the axe. I thought, oh, look, where's it going? And it went exactly like Cardinal said, nowhere.
Yeah, so that was awesome. Speaking of weapons, for some reason, not Doctor Strange, Tony, he gives them magical armor, which for some reason turns
Disappears.
Wolverine's claws red,
Yeah,
which doesn't make any sense. Like, I guess you could say, oh, it's magic, but
yep, that
whatever.
one.
They also give Blade these magic swords, and he sometimes uses them and sometimes uses the axe. So, I mean, that's kind of small, but that bothered me. Like, where does he put the axe? It doesn't make sense. The demon at one point says the words "challenge accepted." Like, like a millennial demon. What the fuck is wrong with these people? Why are they writing this shit? Let's see. Yeah, why? I assume Doctor Strange is dead, which I googled, and I guess there's a whole storyline where he's dead. But yeah, Tony being Sorcerer Supreme was random and stupid. Uh, and why would he have seen the vision when he was in the dark dimension? When the vision presumably was on 616, so that made no sense. He was literally just there to give them special armor and make them look cool, and they didn't even look that cool. Like, it also bothered me that every single cover was like their standard outfits, and they weren't wearing their standard outfits in the book. Like, Magic was in her black outfit on all the covers, but she's in this like golden shit the whole time. So, and then also, I guess final point is that how they got back to Earth, obviously, complete bullshit, awful. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk, boys.
Whenever it comes to the armor, I feel like they were trying to match up with the games, although within the games, the armor is black and gold, not black and red. So I feel like that's the reasoning behind the armor, but you keep pointing out stuff, and I'm like, I'm at a loss for words whenever it comes to this book. I gave it a 2.5 on League of Comic Book Geeks because I thought it was serviceable.
No fucking much.
But I think that score is going down after this, after like talking it out. Do Wolverine's claws still count as adamantium if you cover them in another substance?
Yeah, it's magical. It's a magical layer.
Also, Carter mentioned the axe and like swords thing with Blade, and now I cannot like stop seeing it after I'm like scrolling through these pages. I'm like, where is Blade's like he has a sheath or whatever for his katanas usually. Where's that at on his outfit? Did Tony forget to craft like magic sheaths for his katanas? I don't know. Anyways, uh, next question. Well, we already sort of talked about that. So what did you think of the background story with Agatha and the Coven? I felt like this was the better part of the book. I did like the concept of like this villain that has this villain that has a connection with one of the teachers at Strange Academy. That makes sense. I feel like it would have made more sense to leave Laveau out of this and just have Agatha be in Laveau's position rather than have this random child be a part of it. I get like her ancestor was a part of the Coven, and so that's why she's connected. But I feel like it just would have made more sense to have like Valtor / Corrosion go after Agatha specifically, and then the Midnight Suns protect her or whatever. So I enjoyed the background story. I thought it gave us some potential, but again, the execution just is not there whenever it comes to the story. Like the idea is there, the execution is not. Also, I do not have like a specific question for this, but I did appreciate Agatha's young design. I love the covers of Agatha's young look. That's all I say about it. Cosm, what did you think of the background story of Agatha and the Coven?
Um, probably, quote unquote, it's the best in the sense that it makes a compelling it makes a plot there. And when the flip on the page happened, was like, oh yeah, I can't honestly say I saw it coming, but I rolled my eyes. It's like, yeah, of course, this is where it went, and it was just like, okay. It was, I guess, for those 5 people that enjoy Harkness, I guess they are happy with this. It's going to be the thing, and they have no more deepened out lore. I was looking at the Strange Academy omnibus a while ago. I'm not anymore. I just want to say it's like I'm not even going to try it. I'm good. So yeah, but if why does Harkness become young again? Explain me that. How and why?
Because magic.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, no, I have a saying for it. Magic solves all plot holes. That's certainly true. But that kind of issue. I mean, so the build-up isn't necessarily not there. I mean, because at some point you almost see her like turn quote unquote evil because she's sacrificing her in order to get sucked in whatever the fuck is going, so that she can be the sort of the Vora, whatever the fuck it was name elemental thing was. And I was like, okay, but then she came back younger and she is like also Supreme-esque or the Coven leaderess, but the other woman is still there and the who provides quote unquote the magic. So, and again, I'm trying to manage an idea of what happened here, and I can't. I simply cannot explain what the page is showing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and again, it's like the bare minimum. You supply spaghetti for spaghetti. Yeah, that's nice. True. Did you manage to cook it? No, it's still waiting in the cold. With no heat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, it's good. And again, yes, you can do a lot more with this, but with this, with this particular backstory, and I'm not even sure if this is quote unquote official lore or anything. I don't know, but it's like, oh my god, it's. I'm not even sure how somebody else is going to work from this. Unless you just toss out everything and ignore most of everything that happened. And then Harkness is young now. Because reasons.
Yeah.
And it goes also back to Doom. Because, I mean, as far as I follow the pals a little bit, I mean, the idea that Doom, what you also said, like a little bit earlier, like he has the Darkhold, become Sorcerer Supreme with this element. Like, oh my, that sounds like that sounds like cool. And I'm not even into Doom or whatever, but it sounds cool. But to see it happen in some fashion or way here, and then to still hear from the past that generally Doom, World Under Doom, is seen as a monumental fuck up. It's like, how can you fuck this up twice? Apparently.
And then they might be messing it up with Doomsday. We'll see.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, also, I feel like Agatha was only included in this, one, because of WandaVision, but also she's in the Midnight Suns video game, so again, it ties into the, we're making a video game, we need to cash in on it, so that's why she's also a part of this, at least that's how I feel. Superjob does say, but one of the big reasons for the series was to make Agatha young again, like in the movies, and she only shows up on a single page. Switch it halfway so we can see why she's cooler this way. I looked on Marvel DB, and Agatha showed up in about 10 comics after this, most of them Scarlet Witch. Yeah. Yeah. I will say, like, I don't have much experience with Agatha in the comics. Aside from this, the only comic that I've read that she's in is the Hulk and Doctor Strange book that came out last year, where Aunt May and Agatha are in a book club together, and like some supernatural monster attacks the book club, and so Agatha and Aunt May have to team up to fight the mythical monster. I'm making it sound crazier than it is. It's a bit of fun. It's like a 5-page story, so not much there, but I did enjoy that. But in terms of like this introduction to Agatha in the comics, again, I like this stuff from the past. Didn't really care about the stuff in the present, but that's my side.
But Hayden, even if it was made to cash into something, you're telling me it's made to cash into the Midnight, that game. It's made to cash into the Harkness series. It's made to cash into whatever else we can grab onto. And even if all accounting that for, I mean, when Thor and the Marvel universe was being created, what was at the time on the shelves? It was female Thor. Not that that is a problem, but there's so much disconnect within the comics verse back at those areas and times and stuff. Like, it doesn't even make sense under that umbrella, because there is no such thing really as cross-contamination. They may try it, but I cannot think of it that, like, because that apparently the writer or the director of the story went to some guy. I want to have this character in it, this character in it, and this character in it, and you make it happen. That can be a pitch instead of other way around. That the writer pitches something to you. Instead of, but needs something the reverse of it. I need to have this in it, but even then I wouldn't say like this is sensible or at least plausible, because it doesn't even tie into those specific things to begin with. Because I cannot imagine people reading Harkness, reading this, that they are happy with this, or Midnight Suns players that are happy with this either. Or does it in the end make sense for them? Because to be honest, when you are telling me about a Midnight Suns movie, oh boy, I'm not enthused.
Look, if you
well, it sounded cool, but it's like at the moment it's like, ooh, really?
If you want to get enthused about a Midnight Suns movie, go read the Donny Cates Doctor Strange stuff. That is the best Midnight Suns story out there. Maybe I will recommend the Donny Cates Doctor Strange run for the future book club. We'll see, because I feel like you do need some information about the previous run. So I don't know. We'll get to that here in a bit. But
what the fuck is a WILF?
The best thing about this book, mainline Agatha, is a Carter. Before you tell us like your thoughts on Agatha and the Coven, what's a WILF?
Well, the W stands for witch.
Oh,
You
wait,
can infer
okay.
from context.
I thought woman, but okay, sure.
I know the rest. I was just confused about the W.
Yeah, same here. I thought woman. Like, okay,
Yeah. What did you think about Agatha and the Coven, Carter?
Sure. I think it plants the seeds of an interesting storyline, which would be like Agatha has history with the ancestors of all these students.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then, things ensue, which, I guess could be like her trying to get her youth back by using their coven connection or whatever, right? I think that would be an interesting series, and I would read that. And I would even go back and read Strange Academy because I think that's an interesting idea and
Yeah.
probably gives a lot of places for these magical characters to shine. And hopefully, praying to God that Nico has her staff in that original series, so she'll shut the fuck up about it. But in execution, the storyline was quite boring because it was literally just they go off to this castle and then they stay there until the flashback's over. And then Agatha stares into the mirror and she also, Zoe also stares into the mirror. And then they're like, should we destroy the mirror? And they ask that question like 17
Yeah.
times. And then finally a demon comes out of it. And they're like, oh no,
No, but even
destroying the
then,
mirror all along was a bad idea. It's
yeah,
just,
and
why?
but the demon, is situated into that the demon speaking through Harkness at her, and then before the mirror is actually broken, the spirit explains in entirety from the outset, like that she is. Oh, damn it! It was somewhere in there. She literally explains the plot why they need to have her destroy the mirror and they can come through the window. And it's like, wait a second, are you now telling this to Zoe as well, or is this just for us to see the machinations behind this creature? But it seems to be the creature speaking, so Harkness would be speaking this as well in the actual place where Zoe also was residing. So it's like, telling me, like, haha, because I'm going to destroy you now by if you break this mirror, that kind of effect. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, oh my god, I just couldn't.
Yeah, the execution was pretty awful. But I think there are seeds of what could be a good story with the whole like coven lineage and all that stuff. It's just that very little was put into actually why Zoe needs to be important at all, and B, why Agatha is there other than to reverse age her. I'm like 99% sure that they were like, yeah, we'll let you write this tie-in comic, but you must figure out a way to de-age Agatha so that she can kind of look like her actress. And that's just so stupid and frustrating. Like, there are so many ways to do that that don't involve just her disappearing with all the magic because we don't have to explain magic.
No, but even so, like she's literally here in the panels. You see her repeating whatever the demon is saying, or this Voltor is saying behind her.
Mhm.
Or at least the corrosion is saying this. So she is repeating this, presumably from this perspective as we were seeing it, as Zoe is still in this room. So she is simply saying, our plans, however, are proceeding perfectly. The age of corrosion, which Zoe at this point shouldn't know who the fuck this is, shall soon come to their world. My age, my world. You may watch it all unfold from here with pride, my Lord Valdor. And Zoe is standing next to her like, wait a second, Harkness, why are you saying this? And a panel later, it's like, oh yeah, but we need to destroy the mirror. It's like, what the... It's maddening.
Yeah, it's pretty
I
terrible.
yeah.
Okay. Next question. Which character was the most annoying in the 2022 Midnight Sun series? For me, it was Nico Minoru. Her and her staff. She would not let us forget that she didn't have her staff, so she was not as powerful. It felt like every sentence that she was saying was, oh, I no longer have my staff, so I'm not as powerful. I can't defeat them. And yet, like Carter pointed out, Dr. Voodoo apparently taught her some stuff, so she's able to summon butterflies and summon marbles, although she tried to summon lightning but failed at that. And so it's like, again, why would you have her teaching at Strange Academy if she's supposed to be teaching magic? Like, she's obviously not suited for the job. It's like how my guitar teacher didn't even know how to play guitar in high school, so I obviously didn't know how to play guitar. He would give us an A if we just showed up, so that was one of the easiest classes that I ever had. But obviously I didn't learn anything from him, so that's the sort of experience these children are getting from Nico. And it's like, yeah, she's the most annoying character in this. I hated reading her dialogue in this, which makes me sad because in the Midnight Suns video game, I enjoyed her. At first she was annoying, but then I learned to enjoy the character, whereas this, she is just plain annoying, and I never learned to enjoy her character in this. So yeah, she is the most annoying character. Kazum, who is the most annoying character in the 2022 Midnight Sun series for you?
My god, it's more she can make a checklist out of this one, because everybody was to a certain degree fucking annoying. I mean, we can start off with Nico at the top. I mean, hopefully she will find a staff that has batteries that makes her stop fucking moping around. Because at least that will finish her off in that sense. So yeah, again, Dr. Voodoo, largely unnoted, probably wasted in that sense. Wolverine, who his dialogue made it clearly that he didn't want to be there, and also wondered why he was even there. So congratulations, you made even Wolverine be annoying as fuck. Magic, yeah, again, girl with sword does stuff, does nothing. Blade, guy with sword, same thing, a bit smaller sword. Sorry, no, axe. Sorry, my bad. Axe does nothing. And then we have the zombie girl, which is essentially, a little bit of the MacGuffin, but the only character that I responded to in the sense like, okay, you see a little bit of background. It's like, oh yeah, I can imagine that you're looking like a fucking zombie that comes into play with this. The whole first 10 pages, the Strange Academy stuff was actually quite nice. It's like, oh yeah, this is fun. I'm going to see what goes. And then it kind of, went the way of the dodo. And yeah, it's just the character after character. I cannot imagine from the characters as far as tangentially that I know them. I cannot comprehend that these characters act like this in the books that they are.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, I do not get why these characters are popular to any form of the.
Yeah, I don't think the writer knows how to write these characters at all.
I mean, maybe the only character that was quote unquote written well, maybe Doom. And again, I'm not even know necessarily who Doom, in that sense is, or what is his meaning of speeches. But again, I saw him as an imposing dude in that particular moment. It's like, okay, well, fuck, he's fucking people up, with these somewhat enjoyable. But even so, it's like, yeah.
Yeah, Doom.
And the Spirit Rider, like, what the fuck? I mean, if you put all tropes together and call it Spirit Rider, this is what we end up with. And I don't know what to say racism, but holy fuck, if you take all, the literal stuff that you can, if you say, make me a spiritual Spirit Rider, this is what you end up with, but what you generally would come up with. It's like, oh man, really? Mm-hmm. It's like, oh. And again, I'm not saying that I can do better from the top of my head, but it's like, Jesus, I do not know.
Yeah.
And why does she have a bike? Give her a horse at that point as well. I mean, if you go all in, go all in.
Also, like to point out that when they're coming back through the portal, her bike just magically appears. Like, there's no reason where she should have gotten that bike from. It just shows up.
Oh, yeah. Pocket bike. Yep, magic.
She could just summon it.
Sorry, magic. Solve all potholes.
Yeah.
Spirit bike, I choose you.
This book, I did not like Dr. Doom in this, especially the page where Blade is about to strike his back and he says, real Doom is over here. I can smell him.
Yeah.
Lavender, really? So we know that Dr. Doom wears lavender deodorant now. Like, that's his go-to.
Yeah, you're correct. Doom also sucks. God damn it, Aiden.
Carter, Who is the most annoying character to you? I feel like you're gonna say Nico and her constant complaining about the staff.
It's definitely Nico, but I will go as far as to say past issue 1, it's everyone that opens their mouths at all. Because if you look at the fight scenes,
Mhm.
literally everything they're saying is just superfluous. It's just saying shit like, "Ha, take that. Got your back. Oh no, he's gonna get me. I guess I'll take out this leg." Like it's just mind-numbingly stupid. And I don't understand because I read the first issue of Old Man Hawkeye, which Ethan Sachs also wrote, and it's good. So like why did he over the past like since then, like why is this so bad? Like I can't fathom how this
And
happened. Like he must have just been like doing something more important and been like, yeah, they're gonna pay me to make this comic that no one cares about, and I'm just gonna crank it out in 2 days, and here you go.
it's
uh,
just something.
I get.
And even so, the dialogue is so bad. I mean, you have this even today with most, no, not most, but with many Netflix series. You can watch them by watching your phone. You don't have to look at. But this is like a comic that is written to actually not be read. It's almost like an audiobook on paper. It's like people just say to you, but you don't actually have to watch the picture. It's not needed. That's how it sounds like. That kind of idea, but simply that for reading sake. Instead of the Netflix dialogue from okay, you can watch you look at the screen while watching at your phone essentially. Like damn.
Yeah, that's a good point. I also another point on Nico that's not just about her staff is that they completely skim over the fact that like her ancestor was in the coven and apparently she's just not the special chosen one, so it doesn't matter. And until I guess at the last second they like kind of unite their magic or whatever, which was dumb. Uh, I also back to the timeline thing. The the different timelines doesn't make sense because like normally when you do a split timeline story, right? It's like here's the point of divergence and now we're interacting with ourselves from around the same time on the other end of that branch, right? But
Yeah,
in this case of the split timeline branch, the point at which they split off is like from two different points because like
yeah,
that timeline is like what if the call never came in and we just went straight down the road, whereas the point we're following is like what if it did, what if we sent the call after we received it. So it's completely confounding. I don't even know if the explanation made sense, but it doesn't make any sense
no,
in
because it
general.
doesn't make because it doesn't make sense because she actually they hone in on the wrong spirit of vengeance essentially because that's in a different dimension. That's not part of their group to begin with. So how does that spirit of vengeance, in hindsight, get the future? That
It was
it,
so
it,
stupid.
yeah, like I said, from and normally you would when something like this happens, you converge back into the timeline. You or you snap back, whatever however the time is being dealt or handled. But there's nowhere a moment because at some point, what happened to the I would say the normal clothed people, where the spirit of vengeance got killed in that dimension, because that's the dimension they're going into. So where are those sons of midnight who are wearing quote unquote the normal armor? Were those the guys that are in the spiritual vision in issue 1, or are the new black and red guys that are now inside of that dimension, fucking about and doing their stuff and getting the win? But those are not envisioned in the first page essentially. So it's like okay, so are we have a double blade in this universe now, or what's going on? Because only the spirit of vengeance died. The other one's still there apparently. Also, but like I said, it's I want to cry.
Also, I just remembered something. Why are there vampires in the dark dimension? Like, they
I don't
just
know.
suddenly come across vampires
Oh yeah,
at
true.
the tower. Uh, the dark
Yeah.
dimension is like Dormammu's dimension, so you would think it'd be like Dormammu drones that they would run into, but no, it's vampires because I guess they wanted Blade to like be able to fight some vampires in this book. Like
That's probably it.
I was trying to find like a highlight within this, and I was gonna say, oh, whenever Kushala takes over the giant bat creature, that was pretty cool. Like I like the giant flaming bat, but then the page after shows the vampires in the dark dimension, and then I'm just like,
Yeah, and
uh,
also one that was stupidly convenient. I agree, and that's like the only justification as to why Blade is in this book, I guess, other than the video game. But second, the fact that Blade, his literal entire existence revolves around killing vampires, and so he's like strapped with all these weapons. But then he's like, it's so convenient that your castle is full of wood, and then just like starts killing them with like the fucking torches. I'm like, he didn't have to flex on him like that. Like, what the fuck, man?
oh my god, this book. Okay, we need some more lighthearted questions. So, moving on from the 2022 Midnight
Sorry.
Suns series, if you had to make your own Midnight Suns team without using any of the characters from these stories, what would your team be? And we'll say it's 5 characters. Just a fun little question to move aside from that. My team would be characters that aren't from the story. I would use Robbie Reyes as my ghostwriter. Um, I would use Dr. Voodoo. Um, I would bring in Elsa Bloodstone. I would go with Werewolf by Night as like my muscle, and I would do Kane, the Scarlet Spider. Or yeah, that I don't know if I did 6 or 5. I'm losing my mind already. Kazum, if you could make your own team of 5 characters for the Midnight Suns, what would your team be?
Oh, uh, you, the problem is, yeah, but like I said, and I mean this genuine, because this is my first real idea of the Midnight Suns, I guess in the future, as how they are now. And it's like so many characters have kind of been broken for me already. It's like, what do I even go with? I would probably say, because they're already on. I probably say like fuck them, and like I said, go with the old ones. Like I said, get the two guy with gun and king out of there. Add magic Nico if she's at least decently somewhere handled in some fashion or way. And I think that's kind of where it's going to end in that sense. Or fuck Nico, put Doctor Voodoo in there. There, done.
I like it. I like
I
it.
think that's probably what I initially said. Probably that's where you're going to end up. And you can place Nico in the sense of if you really need another female character of some form, and she is decently written, and I assume that she might have been beforehand somewhere, someplace that she can be an adequate character in that sense as well, just to round out the team even more, to make some more female drama in there, or love interests, or whatever the fuck Midnight Suns runs on. I don't know, empty hopes and dreams. Who knows?
Carter, if you could make your own team of the Midnight Suns, what 5 characters would you choose for your team?
I have to look at a list of characters because I don't know enough Marvel to list the magic ones, but I think we're gonna go with Brother Voodoo or Doctor Voodoo, whatever his name is.
Mm-hmm.
He's cool. Man Thing, probably Heimdall, because I
Ooh,
feel like throwing an Asgardian in there is kind of cool. Fuck, who else was I gonna choose? Probably Wong. I don't know much about comic Wong, but he's cool in the movies. Uh,
the Sorcerer Supreme, not technically.
Yeah, in the movies, I think he is right now.
Okay.
I don't know. I guess maybe Doom would be an interesting one.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Add a little bit of chaos to the mix. That's like them including Venom in the Midnight Suns. Superjob says Deadpool to annoy Al. Obviously, you joke about that, but Deadpool is in the Midnight Suns video game. He's a part of the team. They also say Werewolf by Night, Moon Knight, Man-Thing, Dracula, Enchantress. Good team.
Moon Knight's a good choice. I thought about that. I
Yeah.
also thought about Beta Ray Bill.
Oh, yeah, that would be fun.
What's the character opposite of Jessica Jones again in the series? Maybe that one, the black guy. I'm not sure I forgot the name.
Luke Cage.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I just popped into my head out of nowhere. I was like, okay, maybe.
I forgot Iron Fist. I could have put Iron Fist on my team, but it's too late. Oh well. Another fun question, and I think I already know everyone's answer to this. Which one would make the best TV series, and which would fail miserably? For me, I would say the Donny Cates Midnight Suns would make the best TV series if I could include that. But out of these two, the original Midnight Suns would be the best. Obviously, the newer one would fail miserably, although maybe there's a TV writer that can salvage the ideas at the very least. Cosm, which run would make a good TV show and which run would make a bad TV show?
Well, I mean, if you're going to buy a one translation, which at the moment generally isn't happening either, so in that sense, I would probably. Damn. I would probably say if you rewrite this one, the 2023 one, and you make it into some form of a cohesive thing, it might actually be more interesting and enjoyable as an overall story, if it's handled well, which in this case it obviously isn't. But, because I simply think that with today's standards, more things jive in this thing. Because again, the bare bones are there to make it fun. And I think the old story, it seems more to me like a thriller, horror-esque story, while this is more lighthearted almost. It doesn't sound like it, but it seems to me a little bit more. So yeah, I hate to say it, probably 2023, but simply for ease of execution, probably the 92 or the old one. Personally, I would go for the old one, but for today's sensibilities, I would say the new one.
Yeah. Superjob says Iron Fist is kind of mystical. He was actually a part of the Midnight Suns in Donny Cates' run. Here, I'll throw in a photo of it. So the Donny Cates Midnight Suns lineup is my personal favorite out of the teams. So that team had Doctor Strange, Iron Fist, Scarlet Spider, Ben Reilly, because he was living in Las Vegas at the time, and whenever Mephisto takes over Las Vegas, he's like trying to save people, so that's why he's there. You got Moon Knight, you got Ghost Rider, that's Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider. Wong was a part of it. He actually assembled the Midnight Suns for this. Blade, Elsa Bloodstone, Dr. Voodoo, and Man-Thing. But I love that team specifically, and if they could do that for the MCU movie, that would be great. The only ones that I don't think would be a part of the team would be like Ben Reilly. He couldn't be in it because they haven't done like Clone Saga yet. They've introduced Man-Thing and Elsa Bloodstone in the Werewolf by Night special. Obviously, we have Blade. You would need to introduce Ghost Rider, Johnny Blaze, and Dr. Voodoo. But aside from that, the other characters have also been introduced. I think they would need to rework Iron Fist as well. But that's it. This is full of characters. I do like Switch Out Ben for Deadpool, and I'm in. Look, I'm sorry for forcing everyone to read the 2022 Midnight Suns book for the book club. If you want a good Midnight Suns book, go read the Damnation arc of Doctor Strange. You don't need to know much, maybe except for like the previous couple of issues of Doctor Strange by Donny Cates. But aside from that, you will have fun, because it's literally like the Midnight Suns versus Mephisto, who's one of the big magical villains. And you get to see Scarlet Spider use AK-47s against demons. And it's like, it's so fun. Mephisto and Johnny Blaze go up against each other. Really recommend that. If you want a good Midnight Sun story, this would be the one to read. So I would recommend checking that out. All right. Last question. Would you recommend this to anyone? I would recommend the vintage Ghost Rider book if you just want some edgy 90s superhero fun with like magic characters within the Marvel universe. Yes, that is the one. I even have it physically.
Yeah, because it does include some couple of issues beforehand as well, it seems.
Yeah.
That one.
So Donny Cates picked up Doctor Strange right after JC and Aaron, but there was an event where Doctor Strange is no longer the Sorcerer Supreme. So the first couple of issues deal with that and has Doctor Strange get the title back. And then after that is the Mephisto Midnight Suns arc. And then that's like the rest of the book. It's like, hold on, let's see. So like, let's see. Oh yeah, there was that. So like, this amount of material right here, this is all like pre-Midnight Suns stuff, and then the rest right here is like all Midnight Suns books, which is, again, really recommend it. Can I put Captain Soul in mine? I basically disregarded my answer, put the entire Next Wave team in. Anyways, I would recommend the 1990s one if you want some cheesy 90s fun and you don't mind the edge. I would not recommend the new Midnight Suns book. Also, I would recommend Donny Cates' Doctor Strange.
Why did you say to see this one? Why did you give us the other one?
because it was newer, so I assumed that also whenever I suggested it, I had not read Donny Cates' Doctor Strange run yet. So I had recommended it before. If I could go back, I would go back in time and recommend this instead. I will probably end up recommending this for the book club instead. Just for a redemption arc. I need redemption after forcing you to read this. Although I did tease about recommending Tales from the Dark Multiverse, so I might cancel out that redemption at the same time.
Is it so bad?
It depends, really.
Well, you tell me. I got two hardcovers incoming, which are called Dark Multiverse 1 and 2, so you tell me how bad of an investment that is.
Look, there's stories that I enjoy, but I enjoy it for the edge. You may not enjoy Tales for the Dark Multiverse for the edge.
No,
Okay. Then you might enjoy it then. But Cosm, would you recommend either of these Midnight Suns books?
Oh, the first one, yeah. No, so again, it's not gonna rock your life, blaze your comprehension of comics or anything. That was a fun romp, and again, it's just the main issues that I have with it is the ending is a little bit scuffed. The Spider-Man stuff is a little bit, shoved in there. And the ending, or like the sort of the thriller horror of the book was just a nice issue. Eyes of the Beholder, I believe it. But when you go to the 2023 thing, it was just baffling. And I mean this really from the bottom of my heart. I cannot. I would really want to be a mouse in this area and see what happened during the creation of this book. What happened? Who made the choices? What was the pitch? Who gave the pitch? Who read it and thought, yeah, that was a good idea. I get what's going on here. And then to, I don't know. And also, when I read or when Super Job was saying like, oh yeah, this book has a 3 now, it's 3.7 on the legal stuff. Like, okay, am I reading it wrong? Because it was genuinely like okay, am I the idiot here? That kind of an idea. And it's like, man, am I? The Simpson me. Are the children wrong? No.
I would also like to remind the group that Future's End has a 3.5 on League of Comic Book Geeks, so maybe it has to do something with that crowd in terms of bad books. Like maybe they're just high on it. And also know that like League does the average, so like if you have like a high vote and then a lower rating, then it'll just average it out. I don't know.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I for the people going forward, and like I said, I even hate the fucking ending because it has a question mark in there. So I hope for the people that are, fans of Midnight Suns, that this gets memory hold or whatever happens to it, so that you have at least some, starting point that makes fucking sense. Because I cannot imagine having to build on this quote unquote foundation. I use air quotes in this one. It's like because there are so many holes in it that even that is going to be an issue when you really, really think about it, or at least are serious into continuing this. So yeah, and I think the worst crime is that I kind of, because again the first 10 pages were fun from this book, and it kind of like fuck. I had Strange Academy on my list, but it's like, hey, this is kind of fun. I like the the quirky children stuff. It's like yeah, like the book of Scotty Young, that kind of stuff. It was like, oh, just silly stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, man, it even has something like, I hope this book isn't like that. Like this comic is like Strange Academy in the broad sense, like, because otherwise, yeah, no fucking way. So all in all, I would say go for the old stuff, but yeah, toss it into hell.
Yeah.
And I hope nobody actually ever reads it again, because I certainly am not.
Future viewers, if you're watching this, do not read this. Carter, would you recommend this to anyone?
No. Only if they're like, hey, can you tell me a book that I can laugh at because it's so terrible? That's the 2020 whatever book. The older stuff is more excusable, but I still don't think it's good enough that I would recommend it. I guess if you're reading like the main Ghost Rider story just straight through, like you kind of have to because it's pretty tight in there.
Yeah.
But otherwise, no. Also, I looked and I think the weird thing about that Ghost Rider run is that issue 31 came out before issue 30, I think, if you look at the League of Comic Geeks thing, which is like part of why the story is like read 28 and then 31 or something like that. It was super strange.
Yeah, that is weird. Superjob says I wouldn't even recommend it to my worst enemy. As we've talked about it, I've lowered my League of Comic Book rating on this book. It is now a 1 star for this. The art saves it. If the art was terrible, then it would be a 0, but the art saves it for me.
I mean, imagine the artist having to draw this, and they have read the story. It's like, fuck. I mean, they even have to have something like, fuck me, this is the book that I'm being known for. Oh, so sad.
Let's see. Let's look at some of these reviews here. Actually, I'll share my screen for this. We normally don't do this with the book club, but because it's an especially bad book, let's see. Kyle says, this run was alright. Wesley Snipes and Wolverine enthusiastically slaughter hordes of conveniently placed alternate dimension vampires. A teenage zombie tries to defend her family's honor from a spooky evil mirror that happens to be haunted by a magical ghost. Eventually, a grandma and a kidnapping victim engage in magical mortal combat inside of said mirror. Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man as Doctor Strange is a neat diversion. And he even made the team some cute black costumes so they wouldn't die from the air or something. The costumes were a legitimate story device and were not at all an excuse to give these characters cool, new, spooky black outfits. Yes, totally legitimate. It's comic book stuff. 4 stars out of 5. Yeah, that's more of a...
This is like reading, something very bad. Game was okay, full of this, full of crap. 7 out of 10, IGN. It's like, that kind of rating. Everything sucked, 7 out of 10.
Slayerfest says, this was fun. I like that Agatha's trend of homoerotic friends turned to enemies carries over from TV to comics, and it's fun to see where this new, younger version of Agatha got her start. The timey-wimey stuff wasn't super effective, it was more confusing than anything, but I like this team and this fun jaunt through hell and back. Now I really want to start Strange Academy like ASAP. That sounds like the opposite of you, Cosm.
Possible.
1 star. Just picked it up, was so excited to read it, and barely got through the first issue. It was bad, really bad. Didn't like it. Threw it out, didn't finish the rest. 1 star.
What are the comments on that one? Can we see? Because it has like a bubble.
Let's see.
But just out of curiosity, because I'm drama.
This was pretty wretched, but at least it had Ileana. And then they said, not my cup of tea at all. So,
okay, yeah.
So I guess they're not into goth girls then. But yeah, that is it for the Midnight Suns book club. Real quickly, our next book club will be on Batman the Knight by Chip Zdarsky. This is recommended by Isaac/Tracy here in the Discord. So it's a usual for Isaac. Just like last time, our schedule's a bit wonk because the next available Sunday is also the PALS Patreon meeting, and they do it the same time as we have these book clubs. So we will probably be meeting on in February instead. So it'll be February the 8th will be our next meeting. Batman the Knight is 11 issues. Haven't read it. Look forward to checking it out. But that will be the next book we'll be reading. Also, we need recommendations for the Modern Book Club. Since we've gone through all the previous recs, it's time to start recommending. I already mentioned my rec, which I'll probably do, which is Donny Cates' Doctor Strange. Electrix has gotten in their recommendation. They said Monica, which is a comic by Fantagraphics. I would recommend securing that one. Yeah, getting it while you can, because Fantagraphics, it seems like, doesn't do digital comics. They only do physical. So you'd have to buy Monica physically if you'd like to participate in that book club. I want to say it's like it's on sale for like $15 on Amazon. But throw your recommendations in the community book club chat. I will add them all up, and then whenever we get around to Batman the Knight, then I'll throw up a poll and we'll see what our next book will be. But that is going to be it for me. I'm going to head out and go pick up some heavy stuff and put them back down for a bit. You are welcome to continue hanging out here, or you can head out as well. But thank you so much for joining me and enduring through this terrible book, and good book for the 90s version of Midnight Suns. I will see you all Saturday for our all new, all different discussion. Anyways, that's it for me.
Bye.
Take care.